We're going to call this meeting to order of the Wakulla County Commission. If you could please stand, we're going to start with an invocation from Bishop Brent Tucker of the Crawfordville Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Our Father in heaven, in reverence we pray to Thee and express thanks for the wondrous creations of Thy hands and the beauty that surrounds us. We're thankful for this county that we live in, and for all the good people within it. We're grateful for the men and women who serve in the military, who give of their unselfishly of their time, and the government officials, and even the citizens who make this country so great. We're thankful for the family unit. We're grateful for the blessings and joys that the family brings into our life. The opportunities of unions between a man and a woman, and we ask Thee to bless those whose responsibility it is to defend the law and uphold the values and the sanctity of marriage between a man and a woman. We ask Thee, dear Heavenly Father, to know of our sincere love and gratitude for Thee and for Thy Son, Jesus Christ, and for His atonement for us, for the ability to repent, to overcome sin because of His sacrifice for us. He paid the penalty for our sins and overcame death. Thankful for the knowledge that we can one day return to Thee as family units, and we're thankful for the wonderful blessings of all that we have in our life, and for this great county commission, and we ask Thee to bless them and the decision makings that they have in order this evening, that Thy Spirit may abound, that they may make the decisions according to Thy will. And we ask Thee, dear Heavenly Father, to help us not only to think and be thoughtful of those, but respond to those in need. Bless the sick and the afflicted, those who are struggling due to a loss of a job, loss of a home. Bless us that we may minister welfare and relief to those who are truly in need. We're thankful, dear Heavenly Father, again for the many wondrous blessings that we have in our life, and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Move on to approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add 2 brief announcements.
Okay.
When we get to the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull number 9.
Okay. I'd also like to pull, I'm trying to make sure I get the right items. Item number 10 and item number 24. Other changes to the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to move item number 18 to just under the last item under awards and presentations to correspond with the so it'll finish up right after the financial audit. And we'll discuss that right after that.
Okay.
Motion approved.
We have a motion to approve. Second? And one more additional change before we make that motion.
Yes, I would like to, under my item, I'd like to add, I'd like to talk about the airport, the date for the airport workshop, possible change for that, so add that under my item.
Under the one that I have about, under the one that I have about the water, and I'd like to add to that one, so pull that one on my agenda item. Let me see which one it was.
You want to change the item, or you want to?
I just want to add it. I want to add to it.
I think you can do that as it's written when we get to it.
Okay, good. All right.
All right. Do you accept the amendment?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. As we move forward with the meeting this evening, if you have citizens to be heard, will be at 6:30. But if you want to speak on any agenda item, make sure you fill out a card in advance and turn it in to Katie. We'll allow 3 minutes for every person to speak. Some people may qualify for our ADA qualifications, which extend people the opportunity to speak up to 5 minutes. But you can, if you're interested in that, please reach out to our county administrator. He'll tell you more information about it. Our first public hearing this evening is a request board approval to conduct public hearing and approve an ordinance amending the membership of the Wakulla County Planning Commission. And our county attorney, Heather Encinosa, will lead the way.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pursuant to previous board direction, this item requests board approval to conduct the public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance amending Section 24.053 of the Wakulla County Code pertaining to membership of the Wakulla County Planning Commission as directed by the board. This will add both a City of Sopchoppy and a City of St. Mark's appointee as a voting member.
Make a motion to conduct the public hearing and approve the proposed ordinance amending the membership of the Wakulla County Planning Commission.
Second.
A motion and a second. Okay, we have cards. Thank you. Chuck Hess.
Chuck Hess, I'm speaking for CCAL tonight, and I think right now you have a fairly good planning commission, and I don't see a need to put Sopchoppy and St. Mark's on the planning commission. They have their own commission for directing development in their cities, and they already have their own representative from their district on the parent commission. So I just don't see a need for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bob Danzy.
Hey, my name is Bob Danzy, and I'd like to support this. I would like to ask you to vote for it. There's been some talk about doing some things cross between the city and the county, but I think that already exists with the fact that some of the taxes in the cities go straight to the county, and if you build something in one of the cities, you use our building department, and our sheriff's department is also what would be considered their police. So I think we already probably cross up as much as necessary. So I'd like to see us move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the board? Mr. Hartz?
Yeah, I know we've talked about this several times, and I still find it illogical to include the municipality on the unincorporated county planning commission. And what I would like each of you to think about for just a minute is if the planning commission as it stands now and has existed for the past 3 years had existed for decades, as is standard in counties all across the state. And if that was our history, as well as the convention and the logical approach, would you today be looking at adding St. Mark's or Sopchoppy to our planning commission? And if you would not now add them, if they've never ever been on it, then I would encourage you let's not we fixed a mistake. Let's not go backwards and reinstitute that same mistake. It's just not right for two governments to be able to tell us what to do, and we can't turn around. We have no equivalent channel to have input on their planning decisions. I would fully support going forward with a joint planning commission, or stay with separate but equal, which is what we have now. You know, I understand they're concerned about what we do, but I think we have the exact same concerns about what they do. Right now, Sop Choppy, St. Mark's could approve a high-rise. They could approve a polluting industry. They could bring in some business that's going to have 24-hour trucks on our roads, you know, day in, day out. And we have no voice in that. But yet we're going to say they should have a voice in our decisions about Wakulla Gardens, Crawfordville, Panacea. The logic just completely escapes me. And I'd either rather stay with what we have now, which is really what should have been in place all along, or let's table this or vote it down and move forward on a joint commission.
Other comments from the board? I agree to a certain extent with some of the things Commissioner Arts is saying. I think when this first was proposed 3 years ago, it was done in such a way to offend a lot of people's feelings. I think we upset a lot of people in Sop Choppy and St. Mark's by the way we did it, but I don't think that it. And I voted against taking them off. But now that they're off, I don't think that it makes sense to put them back on the Planning and Zoning Commission, because again, they make up 3%, a great 3% of Wakulla County, but you're unfairly biasing the Planning and Zoning Commission towards them. They both have the ability, they have voices on the commission, so they have the ability to sit there and talk as much as they want. They are recognized as members, they just don't have a vote. So they can influence decisions and have the ability to do that at a higher level than any other citizen in Wakulla County. But adding them as an additional vote on the Planning and Zoning Commission starts to bias it towards those areas, and I think that I think it works out. I don't think it works out well, and it would make Wakulla an exception again to many of the way things are done in Florida. And there are many things that we are the exception to, but I don't know if this should be one of them. Commissioner Moore?
Of course, I totally disagree with you, because these folks are taxpaying individuals, and I think that they should definitely have an input as to how the county develops, how it looks, and the way we do business.
Well, and I'll again point out that they have more influence than any other citizen in the county, because they already have a voice on the Planning and Zoning Commission as non-voting members. And I agree with you, they are tax-paying citizens, and I would love to see us at some point work forward with trying to have some sort of joint planning commission for the county. But from the conversations I had with earlier today, talking to some people, I don't see St. Mark's or Sop Choppy opening their arms and saying, we want Wakulla County telling us how we do things in Wakulla. We are independent cities.
That would be the same analogy as having me up here and not having the right to make a vote.
No. I disagree. And that's where I am on it, though. Comments over here?
Not for me.
All right, we have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. It passes 3-2. Up next on our agenda is request board approval to conduct the public hearing and adopt the comprehensive plan map and text amendment CP 11-03, Spring Creek Farm LLC owner, Thurman Roddenberry agent. Louis Serna will start the process.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This request is for a comprehensive plan amendment adoption. You may recall that you transmitted this to the state on March 5th. It was a 4-to-1 vote at that time. This would change the land use from agriculture to rural 1. We did receive some comments from the state from the Department of State and from the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, but we feel those have been addressed. Staff is recommending board direction on this, but again, you did vote to transmit this on March 5th.
Make a motion to conduct the public hearing and vote to adopt the comp plan amendment, pending future land use map designation from ag to rural 1, land use and the proposed text amendment, future land use element policy 1.2.3, based upon recommendation of the Plan Commission to find in fact conclusion of law made by the board and any evidence submitted to the hearing and adopted in the staff report.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have 3 citizens to speak. First, Lisa Danzy.
Hello, my name's Lisa Danzy, and I support this, and I think let's get people back to work. Let's get some jobs for surveyors and builders and developers.
Thank you. Bob Danzy, Sr.
I'm Bob Danzy, Sr., and I support this project. I'd like to see it move forward.
Thank you. Bob Danzy.
Where your kids at?
I support this. I didn't hear you, Randy.
I said, where your kids at?
Oh. they're in a car. I just didn't need them. I left the window down.
Are there any further comments from the board?
Not after that.
Any further comments from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Passes 4-1. Third item of our public hearings this evening is request board approval to conduct the public hearing and adopt the comprehensive plan map amendment CP 11-04, Big Bend LLC owner, Thurman Roddenberry agent. Louis Serna?
Yes, Commissioners, again, this is another adoption of a comprehensive plan amendment. You also transmitted this on March 5th, 2012, to the state of Florida. We did receive some minor comments on this as well from the state, but nothing that the applicant has addressed those, and those are in your agenda packets. This is for a 26.53 acre parcel to change from rural 2 to commercial and rural 3. Again, you saw this on March 5th, and staff is recommending board direction on this.
I'll make a motion to conduct a public hearing and vote to adopt the comp plan amendment, amending the future land use map designation from rural 2 to commercial and rural 3, based upon the recommendation of the Plan Commission, finding in facts and conclusions of law made by the board and any evidence submitted to the hearing hereon and adopting the staff report.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have 4 citizens to speak. We will start with Bob Danzy, Sr.
My name is Bob Danzy, Sr. I support this project. I'd like to see it move forward.
Thank you. We will go next to Lisa Danzy.
Lisa Danzy, I'd like to see this project move forward.
Thank
Same
you.
reasons. Thank you.
Bob Danzy?
Well, thank you again. My name is Bob Danzy, and I'd like to see this move forward. And now I introduce you to Chuck Hess.
And Chuck Hess.
Chuck Hess, I'm speaking for CCAL tonight. 319 is our artery, our lifeblood. That's where we need to keep and protect it as best we can. This stretch of 319 has no commercial on it. It has a lot of traffic. This allows rapid movement on 319, and if you stick commercial right in the middle of it, you really start hurting development and all the interests that we're trying to promote in this county. This is not the place for commercial development. The rural development, the residential development there is just fine, but commercial development in this section of 319 can only hurt the county and the flow of traffic on 319, and I don't see it being a good thing for the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Passes 4-1. Moving next on our agenda on the awards and presentations. We have a presentation from Pam Portwood regarding the TDC quarterly report. Our TDC Director, Pam Portwood.
Pam, before you start, is this covering the item that you had on the consent agenda?
No, that's not my item on the consent agenda. Well, yes, I'm sorry, the quarterly report.
This
Yes, this highlights it.
Okay.
This gives you some of the highlights.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, as you just stated, on the consent agenda for your approval tonight is our most recent quarterly report for the January through March quarterly period. And I'm going to be really brief and just give you some of the highlights of what we've been working on over the last little while. We, during that period, applied for 4 different grants through the Visit Florida grant programs, and I just received emails within the last week that we were approved for all 4. So that's $15,000 of marketing. We did a marketing grant for a media tour to bring some travel writers in to highlight our paddling and other wonders of Wakulla, an image development grant that will update our photo library as well as our video library, public education grant to do a small outreach program and bring some stakeholders together to talk about the establishment of the Appalachia Bay Maritime Heritage Trail, and then a small business opportunity program grant that provides us $2,500 of web-based advertising, which is something we haven't yet pursued, is paid advertising on the web. So this will be a good opportunity for 50 cents on the dollar, because it's a matching grant, to see how that works for us. In partnership with our Visit Natural North Florida, the original Florida Tourism Group, we hosted a fishing fan media tour again this early spring. We have had great success from that media tour. We, for over 2 days and 2 nights, took them bow fishing, kayak fishing, and inshore charter fishing. Unfortunately, the winds were too high to take them offshore, but we have had blogs on the Visit Florida Boating and Fishing Insider, who came on the tour and did several blogs on the trip. We've had 2 articles in the Miami Herald. We have articles in Lakeside on Lanier, ODU Magazine, which is a fishing online magazine, Atlanta Outdoor Travel Examiner, and some other online blogs. So we've really gotten a lot of good press highlighting the incredible fishing opportunities that we have here in Wakulla. So that was a big success. In our advertising this quarter, we are on a 6-month commercial run with Forgotten Coast TV to just give people an alternative to the beaches over to our west, and hopefully get them out of the sunburn and the sand and some cool waters here in Wakulla County. We have upcoming a 2-page spread in the Griffon, which is the military publication that we've been advertising in now for almost 2 years, that goes to every military person in the country. So we're really excited about that, highlighting just Wakulla County. We also have a full-page ad in the 2012 Travel Guide to Florida, which is distributed throughout the country and in Canada, and through Books A Million, online, Amazon.com, things like that. We also submitted a grant application to the Florida Coastal Management Program, the Coastal Partnerships Initiative, to establish the first segment of the Appalachia Bay paddling trail, which will connect Panacea to St. Mark's with several different length and variety of paddling opportunities between here and there. We have been approved at the state level for that. We have submitted the work plan and necessary paperwork for them to submit up to the federal level. So we're waiting on approval of that, but we've never gotten past the state level and not been funded at the federal level. So hopefully that's another $35,000 grant we have coming to us to work on some paddling opportunities in the county. We continue to use student interns to help us with our social media and actually some graphic services for some guides that we've been working on recently. We also hosted a public workshop to help to educate our local tourism businesses on social media and how to use Facebook and those types of things to market themselves to the traveling public specifically. We had Nate Long with Visit Florida. He's the industry relations manager for Visit Florida, came down and presented to us and really gave us some good ideas on that. And we moved the TDC office officially to the Wakulla Welcome Center. That was actually in early January, but this covers that period. So we are now in the Welcome Center, TDC office. And some of the things, we continue to work on placement of our gateway signs. We've still got to work out the logistics of, getting owner permission and or hopefully use DOT right-of-way and getting through their processes. So we're exploring that. But the gateway signs have been fabricated and waiting to be put up. And we continue also to work on the implementation of the Big Bend Scenic Byway way showing and interpretive plan. Some of the things that I hope to be, I know that I'll be reporting to you in my next quarterly report and presentation will be some updates to our website. In fact, they're nearly complete now. That will make it a lot easier for visitors and travelers to find what they're looking for. We've been working with the Wakulla News with some of their sister papers to advertise in the Kentucky and Tennessee area. They have fall breaks up there, much like we have spring breaks. They also have a fall break, so we're really looking to sort of target that area. We've had some visitors from there and hope to increase that. We'll be reporting on participation in the Villages Travel Expo that we did in the spring and May. We have worked on and are almost finalizing the design of a video to promote a New Moon in June concept, which is again about highlighting the fishing, especially, and not just fishing, but what you do with it once you've caught it. So this will take them all the way through cooking it and cleaning it and cooking it and putting it on the grill. We've nearly completed, and I will be reporting the results of our visitor study that we got a grant for this past year. We've been working on, and we'll have completed some Wakulla guide sheets that will go along with the ambassador program that we have available through TCC. And we had a successful public roundtable recently, and the TDC is working on their 5-year plan, so that will be coming back to you in our next report. So you have lots more details in the quarterly report. I hope you have an opportunity to look through that. And if you have any questions, I can answer them now, or you can email or call me.
A couple. Mr. Stewart? The web page.
Yes, sir.
Have we gotten it updated?
It's nearly complete.
Okay.
I mean, I would say within a couple of weeks we should have it.
Okay. Who does that?
We have a web developer. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, one of the things I'll just add, if you don't mind me, that for the web page, especially any business out there, if you want to have your content on our web page, you have to submit the content.
That was my next question. Can you explain to the public, especially small businesses that want to get on that web page, how to do that?
It's just a matter of contacting me, and actually we've been really busy. In fact, that's probably most of the hours that our student intern has been working recently is taking. We have a business inventory form. It's just a simple form where they fill out all the pertinent information for visitors. He has literally been going door to door with those forms and either helping them to fill them out right there, leaving them to pick up later. I mean, we've really we've had press releases. We've reached out to get the information. So my email is available. Actually, there may even be a link which our web developer is going to check out. I'm not sure it works for me, but on our website that should reach me through email. But I'm also available at pportwood@mywakulla.com. Our office is in the Welcome Center. You can always call there and leave a message for me. We can get you the form in any number of ways, hard copy, email, however.
Okay, because I think that's important. That's some of the complaints that I've heard is, and I don't know. I mean, I hear what you're saying is that however we can make it easy for them to find out how to get their stuff, if you will, on that web page so that they're recognized.
Just
as
what we've been doing,
business.
literally going door to door.
Okay. And again, how often do you have meetings that they can come? You have a round table sort of?
We have
where the public
biannual
can come?
public round, well, the public is invited to, our TDC meetings are publicly,
Right.
Open to the public. And then we have biannual public roundtable meetings,
Okay.
at least twice a year.
And anybody who
Sometimes
comes
more.
has an opportunity to be heard?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Mhm.
The
Always
TDC
have.
meetings are very informal.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that the public comes.
Sorry.
That's all I had.
I apologize for that. Mr. Arts?
Did you happen to bring any of the new postcards?
I did not. I should have done that. But that's
Like
something
that.
I could have highlighted, is that we have also created and printed 5 Wonders of Wakulla postcards. They're available at the Welcome Center, and we're actually beginning to distribute them around the county so that people can, our lodging facilities and places like that will have them available. They're really beautiful. Luke Hallenberger has been very gracious. Well, he was paid with a grant to do some portion of a photo library for us, but way beyond that, he has donated lots of pictures for our use. So they're really, really nice. I wish I had brought some.
Commissioner Moore?
Someone mentioned to me that we had some locations that were outside of the county on our page,
Yeah, that's some old information that is being...
so that'll be gone soon.
Yes, and related to specific businesses, yes, those will be. Now, it behooves us to,
Link allocator point.
reach out to our regional partners and promote our area. But yes, when it comes specifically to actual businesses, I think we have a campgrounds or something that's in Franklin County that'll be taken out. So, yes.
I basically think that probably the businesses we're talking about and so forth, they feel like they're paying into this, that they shouldn't be competing with somebody who's not paying in. So you just answered the question, but I'm just saying.
Right, they don't literally pay in, but I understand.
Well,
I completely
they do, and
understand.
indirectly they do.
I completely understand, yes.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions for our Tourist Development Council? All right. Thank you, Pam. Commissioner Arts, you had 2 announcements before we move on to our next announcement.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware that our housing services offices have moved. Meridian, that administers the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, and the SHIP program is now at our administration building on Thursday afternoons from 1 to 4. And then the Capital Area Community Action Agency that administers the weatherization program and the energy assistance program, LIHEAP, has moved to the Berry buildings, which is the log cabin south of the courthouse. They're open on Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5, but closed 12 to 2. So if you know somebody who needs those services, make sure they get to the new locations. And the other announcement is we have about 7,000 children and youth under age 18, some of whom go hungry every summer, that are used to getting free meals through the breakfast and lunch program at our schools, and then don't have that available in the summer. Well, this summer is going to be different. There are going to be summer break spots at 5 or so places around the county where children can get breakfast and lunch in most cases. These locations are the Wakulla Education Center, Wakulla High School, Medart Elementary School, and Wakulla Springs Baptist Church. And this is open to all children. The dates, some have already started offering, and some will continue through July, others into August. Their times differ, so I'm not going to go into those details, but please help spread the word that there are now at least 5 places around the county where kids can get lunch and breakfast and lunch through the summer.
Thank you. Those both your announcements?
Yes.
Up next will be a presentation regarding Wakulla County Fiscal Year 2010-2011 Annual Financial Report. Richard Powell, Powell & Jones CPAs, which will be followed by item 18.
As always, it's a pleasure delivering the annual audit of Wakulla County. A quick overview. A county audit is a complete separate audit of each constitutional officer and the board, and then the compilation of all of those audits into the big audit report that you have. And the stages of an audit, you do planning, you do interim work, you do field work in each audit. We compile the financial reports with the assistance of the various financial staffs. We held exit interviews. We've met with the audit committee, so now the formal presentation. And the audit report I just looked is 200 pages long, but I promise I'll only review the highlights. Being sensitive to your agenda and my coveted early slot. On page 8 is the audit opinion. It states it's a complete audit of the county, completed in accordance with applicable auditing standards that include the financial auditing standards, the government auditing standards, the federal single audit standards, and the state single audit standards. So it has 4 levels of specific audit procedures. In an audit, what you seek is a clean, unqualified opinion that states that the financial statements are an accurate reflection of how the county stood overall at the end of the year and what transpired financially during the year. You have that highest level of assurance, a clean opinion, which is it's a good reflection on the quality of records and financial practices of the county and each office. The next section, beginning on page 10, management's discussion and analysis, is some overview, highly condensed information on the county and some financial information using business accounting principles, compiled under business accounting principles. Has some useful information. On page 13 is a table that shows the overall condensed balance sheet of the county with the comparison with the prior year. The total assets of the county at the end of the year were $85,662,450, which was about a $3.6 million increase from the prior year. And you can see that the increase was mainly capital assets, but also some of the current assets, liquid assets. The total liabilities were $15,386,047, about a $1 million increase from the prior year. The net assets, kind of the net worth of the county under business accounting principles, was $70,276,403, about a $2.6 million increase. But when you look at the components of it, the majority of the increase was in the invested in capital assets, which is not liquid, and in actuality, the unrestricted net assets under business accounting principles was negative still, about $1.1 million. The next table on page 15 is a revenue and expense statement, again using business accounting principles, not fund accounting principles. Here, the total revenues for the year were $36,364,199, which was about a little under a $500,000 increase from the prior year. Expenses, and these are expenditure or expenses including depreciation, actually reduced to $33,768,938. So under business accounting principles, you showed an increase in net assets of $2.6 million. So under business accounting principles, you increased your net assets by about $2.6 million. The county, in actuality, operates under
primarily under fund accounting principles, so I'll go to those statements. And the first one on page 23 is an overall statement on the governmental funds of the county. The majority of the funds and activities in the county are the governmental funds. Your business-type enterprise funds are the sewer and the solid waste. So these are all of the funds, and there's about 100 of them when you add all the board ones and the constitutional officer ones. A balance sheet under fund accounting is pretty much a cash statement. So the and the primary funds are the general fund, road department fund, ship fund, impact fee fund, 1 cent sales tax fund, and road paving fund. All the other funds are included in the column that says other governmental funds. The assets at the end of the year were $10,650,772. The total liabilities, $3,415,826. The fund balances, these are cash reserves, at the end of the year were $7,234,946. You have various components of them. The government accounting standards decided to have more categories of fund balances. They used to just be reserved, unreserved, which were fairly easy to understand, but now there's many. One is non-spendable. That's in inventories in your case. Your prepaid expenses. Then you have restricted. Restricted are significant, but $3.2 million. Assigned means, or committed is also restricted, but at the county level. Assigned is directed for purpose. And then finally, unassigned at the end of the year were $1,356,000. So the $1.3 million in the assigned, you had about $1.8 million in unrestricted liquid assets at the end of the year, and I'll now it is opposed to the prior year when you had 900,000. So in this year, in the unrestricted liquid area, you increased with those reserves by almost $1 million. Okay, now if we look on page 24 at the revenues and expenditure statement on these funds. Okay, and the general fund is your main unrestricted, it's the main fund of the county. And the general fund is the combination of the board's fund and all the officers' general funds. So in this case, the revenues were $20,160,683. And you don't have the comparisons, but just to give you a comparison, that is almost exactly the same amount of revenue as you had the prior year. The expenditures for general fund were $20,242,312. You had transfers in and out, and if you look at 3 numbers up from the bottom, the increase in fund balance in this year was a positive $923,438. The comparable number in the prior year was a little over $1 million in the red. So in this one fund, the performance increased a positive $2 million. In the road department fund, it's the other main fund, governmental fund. The revenues $2,199,390. Expenditures $1,564,935, and then if you look 3 numbers up from the bottom, it was positive $980,532. The equivalent number last year was negative $600,000, so it increased $1.5 million in this one year. So, and it was for various reasons, but because revenue was about the same, it was mainly spending less from kind of an overall statement. It had many strategies in it, I know that. And so if you look overall for all these funds, the net change in fund balance was positive $297,154. The equivalent number in the prior year was negative 4.9 million. So it was clear there was a big turnaround in these governmental funds in this year. The next statement to quickly look at are your enterprise fund statements, and on page 26 is the balance sheet. And in here, you have significant assets because of the primarily the significant sewer-related infrastructure. Total assets of these funds is $18,991,464. The total liabilities, $3,862,021. The net assets here, the total is $15,129,443. However, there's still $550,837 in negative unrestricted funds. So these funds still have liquidity problems at this stage. Next statement on page 27 is the revenue and expense statement for these funds. The intent of enterprise funds is to operate off of user charges. In this year, you see the sewer fund was positive $117,140, but that was because it received significant capital grants in this year that actually paid off some debt mainly, but it showed as a positive revenue. In the solid waste fund, it was a positive $441,771, but again had very low net assets. So these funds still were not turned around this year to the extent of the governmental funds. Some information on page 43 is a table of all your capital assets, and it shows depreciation. The first section are the governmental assets, and the total of the cost basis, $84,893,004. Accumulated depreciation, $28,322,812. The net assets, $56,570,192. Some interesting information here, useful information. Your assets are around 1/3 used up, and so it means, from what I see, yours are average to slightly better than average. Most assets are a little bit older, but also you have $28 million in unfunded accumulated depreciation. So when you have opportunities to increase reserves, that's a good reason to do that. And so if you could ever at least fund possibly equipment depreciation, that would be a very prudent thing to do. The enterprise fund assets are around 28% used up, so those, again, are newer than if you had real old systems. I always like to disclose the total debt of an entity on page 51. If you look at the top and you look at the ending balance, the total liabilities of the governmental activities were $8,658,178, which was an increase from the prior year of about $1.3 million. The only real increase was the debt associated with improvements at the courthouse, and the majority of these of the $8.6 million, only $5.7 million is actually liabilities that you will have to pay off. The rest are computations of accrued leave and the landfill liability that will be budgeted, handled through your budget process. Okay, in the business type activities, your enterprise fund, the total debt at the end of the year was $2.8 million. And I remember when we were reviewing this with audit committee and with management, most of your debt is fairly short term. It's not real long term, and will be paid off within the foreseeable future, so it's not going out forever. Okay, so overall financially, you did much better. You stopped a decline that was not being stopped, and you reversed the trend in this year, which was very good. As I mentioned, other aspects of our audit are the audit procedures under government auditing standards, and on page 84 is that report. It has one old carryover finding that I'll mention in a minute. On page 86 is our audit report regarding our audit procedures under the federal single audit requirements and state single audit requirements. It's again a clean report with no findings or questions but costs. On page 88 through 91 is a schedule of the grants, and in this year you had activity in 27 federal grants with total expenditures of just over $3 million, and you had the 21 state grants with $4.4 million in expenditures. So Wakulla County has a lot of grant activity, which helps the county, and it requires a lot of accounting and financial reporting. But you have a lot of grants, which is good. Finally, the management letter issues on page 95 and 96. On 95 is a very old finding that is in decline. It's improving every time. It regards the proper compliance with the purchase order policy. That purchase orders should be properly filled out and issued before the purchase, and it was improved, but it was still not fully removed at the time of our audit. On page 96, under the board, some prior year audit findings were the SHIP grant accounting. The issue here is you get your SHIP funds in advance. You can have up to 3 years of grant funds open at once, and reports are filed annually on how you stand on spending, and we have not been able over the years to track all of the numbers on the reports to the equivalent financial records, and that's improved, but it still was outstanding at this year. Overall, on the grant administration, as a general rule, grants are administered at the department that's associated with the process of the grant. Records are financial reports, periodic ones are filed, and there's also closeout procedures and time frames, and those reports have been difficult to again reconcile with the board records, or to know if the grants had expired or if they were extended. They generally were extended, and so we've recommended that a person, not necessarily a grant writer, but just a person be in charge of the timeline for various grants and assuring that the financial interim reports filed match the board records, and the board has expenditures classified correctly, and that funds are filed for when they're eligible. That all other prior year findings were cleared during the current year. There were no additional reportable findings in the current year. The clerk of the court had no reportable findings in the prior year or the current year. Property appraiser, no reportable findings in the prior current year. Sheriff, no reportable in the prior the current year. Supervisor, no reportable in the prior year or the current year. Tax collector, no reportable in the prior year or the current year. The auditor general compliance areas, the annual report that's filed electronically with the state is in agreement with the audit. The county properly invested available public funds. The county was not in a financial emergency status at the end of the year. We did financial condition assessment procedures. I've given you the highlights of those. The deteriorating financial conditions, if you'll bear with me, I'll read this. that during the prior year, the total fund balances of the governmental funds decreased by $4.9 million, which included a decrease in the general fund of a little over $1 million and the road department fund of $632,000, for a total decrease of $1.6 million for these major operating funds. This continued a trend from the prior year, when the net decrease in fund balances of these funds was $2 million, for a two-year decrease of $3.6 million. The unreserved fund balance of the county's governmental funds decreased to $901,164 at September 30, 2010, which only represented 2% of the governmental fund expenditures. Likewise, unrestricted net assets of enterprise fund decreased $209,000 to negative $168,000, which was a net deficit. This was substantially the result of the solid waste fund incurring a net loss of $300,000 for that year. And this again continued a downward trend from the prior year, where the combined deficit was $500,000 more. At that stage, due to the fact that corrective actions or other resources had not been identified to reverse these deficits, it was our conclusion that the county was experiencing deteriorating financial conditions at September 30, as described in this section of the rules of the Auditor General, which we disclosed to you last year.
I'm sure you say that's September 30th of 2010.
Yeah, the prior year. I'm discussing the prior year, now I'm going to discuss the current year. Okay. And that's okay.
I think you left the year out.
Yes. But during the current year, the total fund balances of governmental funds increased by $297,154, which included an increase in the general fund of $923,438 and the road department fund of $980,532, for a total increase of $1,903,970 for these major operating funds. This resulted in total assigned and unassigned fund balances of $1,866,916 at September 30, 2011, or approximately 5% of governmental funds expenditures. Proprietary funds showed an increase in net assets $558,911, but still showed an unrestricted net asset deficit $558,37. Based on this improved financial performance, it is our conclusion that the county is not experiencing deteriorating financial conditions at September 30, 2011, as described in that section of Rules of the Auditor General. Due to the fact that the governmental fund balances and enterprise unrestricted net assets are still substantially underfunded, we recommend that the county continue its present course of action of increasing these reserves until appropriate fund balance and net assets levels are in place. Okay, so the county was not experiencing deteriorating financial conditions at the end of 2011, nor was it in a financial emergency. In this other area, the clerk complied with the two requirements unique to the clerk. Our audit did not disclose any further items that would be required to be reported under the rules of the Auditor General. We have reviewed information regarding our audit with appropriate county officials and management, have provided them with appropriate documentation as requested. We very much enjoyed the challenges and experience associated with this audit of the county, and we're very honored and to be able to work with the county.
Thank you. There might be some questions from our board or comments.
But just to kind of sum up that riveting presentation, I must say, but our reserve, our checking account, just to simplify it, at September 2010, you guys determined that we were in bad shape.
Yes, sir.
Going downhill.
Yes, sir.
And as of September 2011, it looks like we reversed it.
You've reversed it. You reversed the trend and you increased the reserves.
Please continue to speak into the mic.
Correct.
Just to boil it down.
Yes, you reversed the downward trend of 2 years, the 2 consecutive years. You reversed that and you actually increased your reserves to twice as great.
I think Mike, you can show me some numbers.
Yeah, if you on page 14, that's the one page you jumped and all that, but it says governmental activities total, and this is important, I think, for the public to hear. Total expenses decreased over the prior fiscal year by $2,082,319. The total revenues increased over the prior fiscal year by $878,244. That's as a result of us, doing the hard things we had to do and buckling down and hearing a good audit report, and I'm very pleased to hear that.
Yes, and in that, the revenue increase you mentioned, there's a ad valorem tax decrease of about $600,000. So we actually lowered the, not tooting our own horn, we lowered the property taxes, not everybody's, of course, but I mean, I think we just did what we had to do. Nobody liked it, but at least we're not in a crisis.
Yeah. Any comments from this end of the table? All right, thank you very much. I don't think you're actually dismissed.
No, I'll wait here till I'm dismissed.
I think we're going to move on to item 18 on our agenda, which is the request board approval of the proposed fund balance policy. And Tim, you were going to lead us through this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This kind of ties in with the auditor. That's why we moved it up on the agenda so we can put a bow on it. What you have before you is a new fund balance policy. In light of the deteriorating conditions we experienced last year and prior years, this policy sets forth a roadmap for the Commission to look to as we try to build up our fund balances back to where they should be. And for future boards, they're going to be reminded every year where they stand with their fund balances as they approve their budgets. So they'll be able to guide themselves as to what level they need to be at and where they need to make adjustments. Basically, the fund balance is kind of categorize it into 4 different funds or fund categories. Obviously, you have the general fund in there, special revenue funds, your capital improvement funds, and your enterprise funds, which pretty much capture every fund that you have in the county. And what we've done, we did some research and looking at other jurisdictions and what was acceptable levels or we thought would be a good target for this county. And we looked at having 3 months or 25%, which is pretty much the industry standard, having that amount of reserved set aside so something catastrophic happens, we're able to maintain government functions, at least for the short term. And so in all your fund categories, you're going to see a reserve of 3 months and 25%.
What would that be? How many dollars?
It really depends on the fund, Commissioner. But for the general fund, I forget what Greg, do you remember what that number was? It was like $4 million, I think.
Yeah,
it was
about
4 or 5 million?
almost $5 million.
Based on last year's expenses, it would be $4,971,000.
And where are we today?
We are unrestricted or unassigned, and assigned was 1.8. So you're, about $3 million and some change below. You need to do the same thing you did last year 2 more times.
No.
We were figuring it out.
Well, what we did this year. We put a lot of money in reserves this year, and that's what this is doing, is to build the reserves back up over the next few years.
Remember when we started talking about this, we were talking about it taking 10 years.
Yeah.
Get it back up.
I'd have both arms broken if it did that.
What this policy does is the plan is to collect the proper amount of reserves over the next 5 years. That's the crux of what it's trying to do, and so that we can have a good, solid, stable government. And that's what this does.
My question to David earlier today was, if we had the budget we had this year, would it have fit under this policy? And his answer was yes. So it's not like we're saying we need to sack a ton of money away for reserve every year, but
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. But we just can't keep spending.
We've got some issues to overcome, but yet we're well on the way, and this is one of the tools that will help get us there.
And this would prevent future deficit spending too.
That's right.
Correct.
Yep.
Do we have U.S. government would do that. We'd probably all
we'd be a lot better shape.
We don't.
And just to highlight, your audit committees reviewed this. They've all voted that it's a good policy, so they've all approved it, which includes all your constitutional. So that's pretty much it. If you have any other questions,
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed fund balance policy.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Commissioner Arts?
Yes, under the replenishment on the actual policy, it says over a period not to exceed 5 fiscal years.
Yes.
But I think in the agenda item, it says Sorry. It sounded like it said the opposite in the agenda item, of no less than 5 years. But
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, it kind of lays out a plan to get out of the hole, and well, you'd have to come up with a plan if you see declining fund balances. This policy kicks in a trigger that, we recognize there's an issue. We need, it gives you 5 years to come up with a replenishment plan and get to the targeted goal. So, and if it's approved tonight, that starts ticking.
Do we have, is it possible to get a percentage reduction of cost of each of the constitutionals as well as ourselves? The way to increase your reserve is to cut expenses. And where have we come down in one year over the other as a percentage from, let's say, the county and the different constitutionals? In other words, are our governments cutting costs, or are we where we are just because we raise taxes?
We didn't. Okay. We didn't raise taxes.
We didn't raise taxes?
Collecting less tax revenue now than we were in 2005.
Goodness, I thought we did.
But we, do you have an answer for that?
I couldn't give you those percentages, Commissioner. We'd have to look at that. I don't know what, are you talking about everybody, including constitutions, what percentage reduction?
I'm just talking about how much less is our operating this year than it was the prior year, all across the board.
$2.082 million. Total expenses
$2 million.
decreased over the prior fiscal years.
I don't have a percentage on
okay.
who cut.
That's okay.
It even breaks it down,
Jerry, on that page, each department, how much was cut, or each
good enough
area that was cut by 2 million something.
Is that a page that we have in?
It's in the audit.
It's in the audit.
Okay, good enough.
Page 15.
Good.
Can I add one thing? I want to thank David and Tim, especially David, for the vision approach to this thing, to look out past the current year, and so that we're not operating in a knee-jerk anymore, that we can look ahead and have a 5-year plan. I know David's been working hard on this in several areas to get us a 5-year plan, and that's not an easy thing to do, and they put a lot of work into this, and I can tell you that almost every time I have been in that office, which is almost daily, Greg James has been there, and they have been working on budget. I mean, that's how close I know now we're working together, that we didn't, it just, a few years passed. So I'm very impressed with that, and thank y'all for doing that and having a plan. And we'll, do we stick to it letter by the letter? Possibly, and we do the best we can, but at least we got a plan and a goal. So
thank you. We have been working closely together, and we'll continue, and we're looking forward to rolling out our 5-year plan. That'll hopefully, what it will do is set a course for us and a plan for the county for the long term, because we have some things that we must overcome, and we cannot do that just looking year to year. We have to look forward and build back, and that's what we're doing. And also, what it's doing is, as a process, is we're actually doing an internal audit as we move forward. We were approached to doing some internal audits for other companies. We're doing it ourselves. We're auditing our own operations, which we're finding a few places where we can get better next year. So we're actually looking at and identifying a lot of areas.
I'd like to mention briefly that we didn't have to pay a consultant to do a study to tell us what we needed to do.
No, we would do the audit anyway. So
I hate studies.
That's the way it works.
Commissioner Arts?
Yeah, the 2 enterprise funds are probably not turning around as quickly as some of the other things. If I understood you correctly, the solid waste and the sewer.
Could you come up to the microphone? Thank you.
But you got to remember, this is a year in arrears.
Right.
Yes. Okay, I believe that the board corrected the solid waste fund with the funding stream.
Correct.
And so, but probably at this time next year, that hopefully will be, corrected. But the one that has not been, you haven't a method isn't developed for the sewer fund to have it in the black yet.
And that was exactly the point I was going to make, is I think we've fixed over, as we move forward, the solid waste fund will continue to improve, but the sewer fund, are we working on that?
Oh, yeah. That's the one that we're very much, we've got a couple of different scenarios, and that's one of the most complicated ones that we're having to deal with, because we don't want to, we got a lot of issues there, and we'll be bringing those to you guys. And it's not an easy fix, but we will fix it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion from the board?
Well, I think it's wonderful we at least know where we are.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. We're pulling items 9, 10, and 24. Are there any additional items that need to be pulled from the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda is modified.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Item number 9, request board approval of the proposed resolution amending resolution number 12-12 to extend the Public Records Committee for additional 3 months. David Edwards?
Hold on just one second. This is item number 9, correct?
Yes, item number 9.
Yes. Basically, what we've done is the Public Records Committee has met, basically come to an impasse, and therefore their time, they did not produce a report as was directed due to the impasse. Therefore, we're requesting that we provide them a 3-month window, which actually started at the time that the committee expired, to provide us with a report, either a minority, a majority, or a majority report, whichever that may be, so that we can put a bow around this committee. They need to have that to us by August 7th. So anyway, that's what we're requesting.
Is there an even number of members on the?
No, it's odd 5.
They still. How can you have an impasse?
They voted internally to have a supermajority before they passed anything. So,
can we just get rid of that requirement and be forced to make a decision?
I think we'll get a report from. I think we're going to get a report from the majority and a report from the minority.
I think we're going to end up getting a majority and a minority report.
So you'll get a report.
We don't have that luxury. We got 5 of us. We got to make a decision.
But we didn't make the rule. They did internally with that committee, and then I brought this up because I don't want to keep extending it. It's staff time, it's their time, I'm understanding that it's at an impasse. Do they need 3 months, or can we just tell them to meet next week and get it done?
The problem is, by the time they meet again and write the reports, it'll be August 7th.
Yeah, we're just anticipating there being one more meeting.
That's right, one more meeting is all it'll be.
And if you want to authorize them to have one meeting between now and the end of that 3 months, I'm good with that too.
So if there is no supermajority by then, this goes away. There is no more committee.
We're going to request they write a minority and a majority report.
Okay.
And those be submitted.
I'm fine with that.
Do you want to make it so that there is just one meeting? So do we have a motion? We don't have a motion.
Second. I made a motion.
Okay. Randy made a motion.
Second.
Mike made a second. Y'all want to make any changes to it, or are you good with the way it's written? Good with the way it's written? We have 2 citizens who have asked to speak. Mr. Hugh Taylor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Wish I'd known this, but a couple of things off the top of my head. I don't know that you can make something retroactive. It expired, and it expired, as far as I'm concerned. Suppose 4 of us had been around after the expiration date. I was on the committee on it. et cetera, I mean, consider it. This isn't a place for, maybe for an answer. And, there's a couple other things. Like I said, I wish the moment was coming off, but I didn't, so. The committee made the rules. You guys get paid, we don't. You know, I mean, when we cut and dry things, nobody's, I don't know, I went to every one, except one that was, I thought was illegal, so I didn't go to that one, because I didn't notice. Other than that, it's been, you know, a rocky road. But those were the committee made those rules. I don't see anybody else here, and that's probably because we thought it was consent, and that's fine, and this and that and the other. But if you want to argue the points, again, it's fun, but, and I don't think anybody on the committee minds meeting as long as it takes to do whatever it is they do, but I thought, and you can jump in there and qualify the stuff however you want to qualify it. You can game it, cook the books, I don't care. Because I'm going to do my stuff and vote my conscience. However, well, I've been in contact with members of that committee because the thing expired.
It didn't expire.
Okay, it didn't expire.
No, the deadline to submit the report passed. The committee did not expire.
So what happens when we...
I don't think we should be engaging in conversation.
Okay, we will.
But yeah, you'll have the
Not
opportunity,
here.
I'm sure, yeah. Thank you. You done?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Bob Janzi?
Hey, Bob Danzy's my name, and thank you for letting me speak. I guess I don't really mind. I'm a member of that committee also, and I don't mind which way you go with it. I think we're where we're going to be if y'all just give us a deadline to turn in our reports. Basically, we had Miss Virginia come in, we had Miss Heather come in, and Mr. Edwards come in, and they gave us their opinion on what could and couldn't be done and what was feasible. And there's two people on the committee that basically wanted, if you or any other staff person got an email today, they want to be able to see it tonight. That was our big hang-up. And with their expert advice, that's just not possible because they have to go through and redact the information. The other three of us were at a place where we decided that we would go with staff and basically their recommendations. And Heather had just been through, before our committee started, she had just been through the ordinance. I guess you call it, and revised it, redone it, brought it up to standards, up to date. Anything that would have not been legal, she made right. So from that standpoint, it's already, we've already spent money on it. If we spent different money on that, I don't know, but she's been through it, and she's satisfied with it. I'm speaking for her, but that's the way I understand it. So we decided that's what we would do. Now, we couldn't come to a meeting of the minds, so we left it at that, and that's how we had a trade-off to get a 4-to-1 supermajority on another issue, and that's how that got there. I wasn't really happy with it, but it's what we did. So I don't mind what you do, but I would be just as happy as if you just gave us a certain amount of time and the three of us would get a person to write a supermajority note in a report, and the other two could write their minority report and not have to have a meeting, just turn our reports in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion from the board?
I don't see anything wrong with what, as long as Heather agreed with it, I don't see anything wrong with what we just discussed.
Commissioner Arts?
I know the whole committee's not here, but I just wanted to remind you of what the the charter, the mission of this group was, and that was to look for ways to reduce county expenditures related to public records requests, and that if there were other issues that could be addressed to increase access or whatever, that was fine. But the main thing was we have basically one person who devotes much of their time to responding to public records requests, or we did. I think our public records requests have dropped a bit. But so, whether you reach consensus as a group or whether you have a majority or minority reports, I'm not so concerned about that as making sure that we see some suggestions from you for ways to reduce county expenditures. So that's what I'm looking for. The other thing is this committee was very much instructed to work on their own, and I'm kind of disappointed that I've heard that a lot more county attorney time and so forth has been expended on this than I guess I initially thought was going to occur. So I'm looking forward to seeing either one or two reports, but I hope you'll do that without a lot more staff time, and that you'll do it with keeping in mind that we're looking at cost containment.
Can I just clarify what you guys are directing? And what I've heard is that you're giving this committee till August 7th to submit a majority and a minority report, and the majority report may be 3 members, and the minority may be 2.
That's correct.
Okay. No?
I think we're just directing them to do one of something.
Okay. Any further discussion from the board? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Item number 10, request board approval to amend Exhibit B of the existing Tourist Development Council Director contract and authorize the chairman to execute. I pulled this item because a citizen had requested that we would, and as chairman, it's been my policy that if a citizen makes a request to have an item pulled, we would, to try and put more things on the consent agenda so that we can help make our meetings more efficient. So I turn over to David Edwards.
Based upon, actually thanks to a citizen inquiry, we discovered that the requirement to provide a certificate of insurance naming the county as the additional insured on the TDC automobile policy as listed in Exhibit B of Amendment Number 1 of the contract is not feasible based upon current industry standards as it pertains to that. Therefore, staff is requesting that the requirement be removed for listing the county as an additional insured, and in lieu of require that the TDC director provide a copy of the declaration page showing proof of automobile coverage.
Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve to amend Exhibit B of TDC Director Contract Amendment 1 and authorize the chairman to execute.
You have a second? Second. We have one citizen to be heard, Chuck Hickman. Chuck Hickman chooses not to speak. Any further discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Up next is item 24, request board approval of the proposed resolution, amending resolution number 12-03, reappointing 2 new members to the Wakulla County Airport Committee. I also asked this to be pulled. We had a couple citizens email in the last couple days. I had the chance to speak with staff, and they explained to me what was moving forward, so I wanted to have them explain it to the community.
It has come to staff attention that the Panacea Waterfront's appointee, Walt Dixon, and the county administrator's appointee, Tim Barden, need to be replaced. Therefore, staff requested the board approve the proposed resolution reappointing the following 2 new members into the positions and terms. Tim Jordan was selected by the Panacea Waterfronts Partnership to serve an initial term of 2 years. My appointee was Steve Fultz, selected by myself to serve an initial 1-year term, and the reason for that was Steve, according to our ordinance, the airport manager must be on must come from the committee, so therefore this corrects that. I think the airport committee says it's airport manager, or whether they're saying it's an airport coordinator or whatever. Anyway, needless to say, it was that position, so therefore we're wanting to go ahead and clean that up and put that in put Steve in as a 1-year term.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed resolution, amending Resolution 1203, reappointing 2 new members to the Wakulla County Airport Committee.
I'll second for discussion.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any citizens' cards, Katie? No cards? No worries. Discussion? Oh, there is a card? Sorry. We have 2 citizens here to speak. Mr. Jim Parham. To be followed by John Smith.
Thank you, Jim Parham, 2519 Surf Road, and that we feel like that this appointment has been not been handled properly, is that a vacancy on the position should have been advertised, and interested citizens should have had the opportunity. I will provide to you now what I was sent on November 23rd when I had expressed interest, and before I'd spoken to David Edwards.
While we're handing these out, I just want to make a note that next on the agenda will be citizens to be heard. So if you'd like to speak during citizens to be heard, make sure you fill out a card in advance. Continue.
If you'll notice where it's asterisk on there in the middle of the page, are you interested in serving as a member of the Wakulla County Airport Committee? One member must possess financial, accounting, or budgeting experience to serve an initial term of 2 years. We feel like this entire matter ought to be just tabled until after the airport workshop, because if the county chooses not to go forward with maintaining a license to the airport, all of this becomes moot. Yet, if the county chooses to pursue maintaining the license to the airport, then fine, deal with this at that time. I sat in every one of the airport committee meetings, and I heard what was stated is that the committee itself was to be the overall chairman, and Mr. Fultz was to be the liaison. That was the understanding at that time. However, that's gotten turned around, who knows. But that it is, I feel like, improper, the manner in which this appointment has been handled. These appointments, the Panacea Waterfront, no issue. That's the way the ordinance is written, that the Panacea Waterfront appoints there. So with Tim Jordan, no problem with that. It's the other issue, because we have somebody on Surf Road. The entire committee exists of Tarpine residents or those with interest therein. We had asked back last fall, how about a little representation from the neighborhood, Surf Road? That is when Ms. Corbett sent me the solicitation, and just before Thanksgiving, and Mr. Edwards called me at 8:30 on Monday morning, the 28th of November, asking me if I was willing to serve, and I told him, I can tell you everything about an airport as far as valuation, effect on land uses, what hangar rentals ought to be, all those types of things, but as far as operating or budgeting for an airport, no. And then I called him back to say that there was somebody else in our neighborhood who could, and we didn't hear back, but that person is John Andrew Smith. I'm going to pass around now to you what Mr. Smith's qualifications are.
Out of time.
You won't find anybody in the county with as much experience in budgeting for governmental matters as you will for John Andrew Smith. And he is a Surf Road resident. If this is going to be anything other than a Tarpines Airstrip Preservation Committee, if it's truly going to be an airport advisory committee, then we need some representation from outside of Tarpine. And Mr. Smith provides that in double form, in the qualifications of financial and budgeting, and also as some representation outside of the Tarpine neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Chairman, members of the board, let me first apologize to you for just swinging this stuff at you. But the fact of the matter is that on this position, I knew that it was that it was open Sunday afternoon is when I became available. I understand that maybe the agenda was adjusted on Friday to put it on. So I apologize. It's not my way of doing business. If I was going to do this and put my name forward, obviously I would try to contact each one of you and give you an opportunity to talk with me personally. Time does not permit that, so I apologize for it. I would tell you I have 32 years experience in financial and budgeting. I started off in the governor's office and spent 6 years in the governor's office working with staff to develop the governor's recommendations to the legislature. Then I moved over to the legislature and spent 26 years in the legislature in budgeting. Was a staff director of the Senate Ways and Means Committee for 18 years with the responsibility of all financial matters, developing the recommendations of the Senate budget, all financial matters, all appropriation matters, and all finance and tax matters. In addition to that, I was the chief professional negotiator for the Senate, for the governor's office, and with the House in determining what the budget was. I left there after 32 years and went with Gilday and Tucker Law Firm, lobbied there and did financial work, served on the faculty at Florida State University in the Institute of Financial and Public Affairs with the responsibility to help manage the public institutes, 6 or 8 of those all over the state that do research on governmental matters. In addition to that, I left there in 2004 and formed my own lobbying and financial firm, which I still own part of it, and I'm not very active in it. So with that, I would put forth my qualifications for the position and be available for any questions anybody might have.
Okay, thank you.
David, didn't we designate you to pick the person to be on this committee?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to...
Just like fantasy awards.
This is who you want. All right, that's all I need to hear. That's all I need to hear.
We got to clear it up.
I just want to clarify a couple things too. This ad that went out was, the board has 3 appointees on this committee. This was for the 2 of them that you all made, and then the third is the one that the county administrator makes, and the county administrator one is the one that's currently vacant.
Mr. Arts?
Could you please review all the positions and who?
There's one member who's going to be appointed by the board who's going to possess relevant management experience.
And who is that currently?
I don't know all I can tell you is what's in the ordinance. I don't know.
Okay, so go through the ordinance, and then I'd like somebody to tell me who's representing each of those, okay?
Okay. The second is a TDC appointee. The third is also a board appointee with relevant financial experience.
Right.
The first 2 are what you see here. They were being advertised for interested people to fill. Waterfronts, Tarpine have to be a pilot. The third board appointee, who may be an employee, is who the county administrator appoints. And then there's another Tarpine appointee.
So Tarpine had 2 appointees, one of whom had to be a pilot.
I believe both
correct?
of them need to have aviation-related credentials. If you remember when this was originally fleshed out, there was what was the name of that? The airport? WAG. But when it came to it, that was not actually a defined legal entity, so we didn't really know who should make that official appointment. It was sort of an ad hoc group, so the ordinance was changed.
Okay, and David, what were you just saying about the manager has to be on this committee?
Where's that? Which one is that?
I'm trying to, this is the old agenda. I just have
Well, it just says somebody who has management experience. It doesn't say it has...
At their organizational meeting and every 2 years thereafter, the members of the committee shall appoint 1 member to serve as airport manager for a 2-year term.
All right, was Mr. Foltz is the airport manager, correct?
I'll have to defer to somebody who was at the committee.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Was he ever on this committee as one of the Tarpon?
No.
No.
So he was never qualified to be appointed the airport manager then?
Just that there must have been some confusion about that, and so one of the things they are clarifying now is by putting Mr. Foltz on the committee, he would be eligible to be the airport manager if the committee so chooses.
Okay, and Tim, would you please review who are the people who are on this committee?
Okay. I'm not sure exactly what capacity they're serving in, obviously outside of Tim Jordan and myself, but John Russell is the chairman. I think he is a board appointee or he's a Tarpine appointee. Carol Odell is definitely a Tarpine appointee. Pam Portwood is the TDC appointee. And I believe DeLacy Peavy is the other Tarpine appointee.
No.
Or it's the board appointee, sorry. One of the board appointees is DeLacy Peavy.
Right.
And under which category is he serving?
He's a pilot and he has management experience.
And he's a Tarpon resident. Used to be. No, he still is.
All right, well, I would actually like to see this written out, who the...
I think what it boils down to is this is his appointment.
Well, and that's where my memory of this is a little different from yours, because I remember at one point we were suggesting that David make all 3 appointments, but we also pointed out that that was not the way that we typically approach, that we always advertise. So I'm a little confused that we're advertising 2, but not all 3.
Is this spelled out in the ordinance?
I have the ordinance here. I can read it. I was just able to pull it up. We got our internet back.
I don't think that has the process for how we fill the position.
No, it's not.
And I'd have to go back and look at the tape. My impression was that it was initially suggested that David appoint him, but then we agreed to follow our usual process, which is advertising for interested individuals before the appointments are made.
I have a little bit of a problem in the event this airport thing were to continue forward and continue to be an airport. I would not want the appointee to be the same appointee that we have now, so I would like to make a change in that myself. If I knew the airport was going to go back to Tarpine or whoever, then this might be okay. But if it were not to do, then I would certainly want to make a change in that. So my change would be to have Mr. Smith become that appointee, because if it were to go forward, he has all the credentials and more too.
What I would most like is to table this and to have till our next meeting and to get have the information about all these 7 positions, what the qualifications are, who are the people that are currently filling each of those positions, exactly what's vacant, and to give people a chance to be considered for those vacancies.
Why can't we just table this until after we've made the decision on where the airport goes?
That's if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
That's what I was going to suggest. I suggest that I'd like to see us do away with the committee completely, have this workshop we're going to have, and start over. Because I now have a whole new understanding of this airport process. That we met today. Our staff has met with the correct folks from the aviation community, and to be quite honest, all I've heard is that this thing is so divisive and contentious, these meetings, that it's just about not worth having. And I'd like to see us just sunset the thing, have the workshop, and come out of that with where we want to head with it. Because I can tell you that my appointee will not serve on that board with certain people on there. I'm just telling you that right now. I've been told that, and so we're going to be right back here again appointing somebody else, and it's just that contentious.
Well, I agree with you. That it may be that we need to totally disband this and start out with something else. But I guess I would say, let's just hold off, have that as part of the discussion at the workshop and not make that decision now.
Let's just see where we go with the airport, and then we'll make a decision on who's going to be on what committee, if there is a committee.
And the reason I made the motion is because this was supposed to be David's pick, and I'm not, if we want to table it, that's fine. But I didn't want to undercut him because his job is to pick it.
He did what he was told to do, and that's nothing against David. It has nothing to do with David. This has all to do with the committee. And David understands the dynamics of the committee as well as anybody.
He's going to understand the dynamics. He's learning the dynamics of the board.
Okay. And I'll also point out that under county administrator items at the end of the meeting tonight, we will be talking about perhaps moving, I think this is the workshop we might have the date change again on, so just be aware of that.
David, do you have any concerns about not having appointees to those spots until, is it, you're okay with table?
You're right, you need to have let's have the workshop, and then after the workshop will be a fish or cut bait time.
I think that's a good idea.
I'll amend my motion to table this item.
Second.
Okay. Had you seconded Jerry seconded the first time.
Well, I just seconded the table. I don't.
He dropped the first motion, made a new motion to the table. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, passed unanimously. We'll bring it back up at the July meeting. We are now done with the consent agenda, and we are moving on to citizens to be heard. Thank you. First citizen to be heard this evening is Mr. Hugh Taylor.
Thank you, Commissioner. I love going first. I guess I get to go first from here on out, huh? I feel it is my obligation to speak about your actions, both collectively and individually. And the commissioners that are up for re-election, we can do something about. The collective part, maybe not. Collectively, you are raising taxes. Save Our Homes was passed to do exactly that, save our homes, to provide financial relief to help us keep our homes. These fees come out of our pockets like property taxes, homestead exemption for those young folks up there, came out of the Great Depression so people could keep their homes. When you spend that money or give it to others without oversight, and you should be held accountable. When you spend money with no oversight, you are giving the money away. And there is a real problem with hunger in this county. Where's Ms. Jensen? Wonderful job. And here's your response to it collectively. The extremely low income limits. So if you want to be excluded from your MSBUs, which are as much, that's just another way to spell tax, you have to, 4 people, $18,000 a year or less income. That's unchristian as I understand Christianity. Matthew 23. Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, the scribes and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat, so do and observe whatever they tell you, but not the works they do. For they preach but do not practice. They tie up heavy burdens, hard to bear, and lay them on people's shoulders. But they themselves are not willing to move them with their finger. There is no fairness. Commissioner Brock, you should understand that with your Afro-American history minor. Economic justice does not come without some political action. But the king said, nobody gives you nothing. You got to take it. And I suggest we take it at the voting booth. Commissioner Brock, you made a great point about your work here, but you tie us up with heavy burdens, and there is no record of you paying the taxes and MSBU's you lay on us. And no one even knows where you live. You've been tied to WastePro ever since your first WastePro contribution of $500 in July of 2008. And your recent fundraiser with the lobbyists for WastePro, Scott Maddox and Barry Jordan, just reek of cronyism. All you do is collect and spend other people's money. Commissioner Stewart, you two have laid heavy burdens, of which I will talk about, but I'll start and end with a few of your promises of 2008. Enhance existing infrastructure to support old and new development. But you didn't say in that thing, residents will have to pay twice, while your political contributors lied about road paving, 319, four-laning, etc. No new taxes without voter approval. So much for that one. And then you gave up oversight of the 1/2 cent sales tax without so much as a blink. You ask us to vote for something we will have no say in. Washing your hands right on the pilot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles Hickman.
Is it going to be this way the whole election season?
Yes.
Okay, let's check it.
Charles Hickman, 528 Hickorywood Drive. Commissioners, I'm going to probably surprise you tonight because last time I stood in front of you was last December, and I brought to your attention the dire straits of a web page of our TDC. Mr. Stewart, I wanted to thank you tonight for bringing that subject up because I think it needed to be revisited. The only disappointment I have in the fact that it has been so long, it's been 6 months since that was first brought to your attention. I remember because I was much like Mr. Moore, I was standing here with a sling on. And that wasn't necessarily comfortable that evening, but it's something that I think that you need to be more aware of and go back and revisit some of the things that you have passed on this board, some of the things that you brush off, some of the things that you put in too, and one of the reasons I asked for something to be pulled tonight, and thank you, Alan, for pulling that, gave me an opportunity to find out just exactly what was going to be discussed with the TDC. But I don't think there's enough going back and revisiting, and I don't know whose responsibility that is, but someone needs to keep tabs, just as this evening, Ms. Arts, you were a little vague on what David Edwards was told to do. I commend you for revisiting that issue, and I thank you very much for doing so, but I am disappointed in how long it's taking to bring a simple page, or what should be a simple page, up to date, and adding additional people as they wish to be added. That should be a matter of a few clicks, a few strokes, and boom, they're added to the page.
If it's not, then we need to maybe revisit who's designing that page. Thank you.
Howard Kessler.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Howard Kessler, Panacea, Florida. I preface my remarks by some comments that were made in the audit report of lowering, I think it was the ad valorem by something like $600,000. At least I thought that was said. But at the same time, we've raised taxes. And there was another thing I heard. We didn't raise taxes, but I don't know how that statement can be made. We raised a lot of taxes. And many of our citizens and businesses cannot afford the new taxes and fees that you placed on them. The general service utilities tax, the tax that our citizens pay on their water usage, their electricity, and propane usage, is one of the many taxes that were either put in anew or increased in the last year. Everyone cannot afford it. A few dollars more for Wakulla County electricity tax, a few dollars more for Wakulla County water tax, a few dollars more for Wakulla County propane tax, a few dollars more for cell phone tax, a little more for a landline tax, and a few dollars for Comcast tax, and $16+ for trash pickup each month. And the average family I speak to is paying about $400 a year in county taxes and fees. It is a burden that many on fixed income cannot afford, and it's a burden that many of our young families that initially start out with 2 incomes and only have one now, if they're still lucky to have one, cannot afford. And now you're asking the citizens to decide to vote on themselves another tax, another half-cent sales tax for the 2020 plan. We are told that this plan will raise more than $20 million in the 15 years that it will be in place. And its intended use is for transportation, although undefined transportation projects at this point in time. And this $20 million will be put in the hands of a group of non-elected citizens. Neither this board, you, or the county citizens at large will have any say in how this money will be spent. The way this money will be spent and on what specific projects at this point it will be spent on will not be determined by the board, but by a later determined authority composed of non-elected officials, not accountable to the taxpayers. And you said that this was to avoid politics. What does this mean? What are your responsibilities to the citizens? How much county time and taxpayer money is now being spent on working with and on behalf of the 2020 committee to get this tax increase ready to place on the ballot?
Thank you.
When are we going to stop treating the citizens as bottomless source of tax dollars and start to live within your means and the means of the citizens? Thank you.
And that concludes citizens to be heard this evening. Up next on our agenda is planning and zoning. We have 3 planning and zoning items this evening. The first one is item number 11, application for change of zoning, R12-04, Louis Cerno.
Couple housekeeping matters just before we get into these. These are both, the first 2 items, 11 and 12, are quasi-judicial matters. 13 is not. So in accordance with section 24.01 of the code, each commissioner needs to disclose any contact they may have received from interested parties and or their representatives, lobbyists, or any other third parties concerning these applications and any personal investigation or knowledge being relied upon. And you'll notice I am lumping these together because they're related. Commissioner Stewart, I'll start with you.
None.
No. Sorry.
No.
I spoke with the agent.
None. This includes any written correspondence you may have received as well.
There's been some email shot back and forth between Mr. Mr. Boynton and you that we were courtesy copied on, I haven't responded to any of those and just read them.
We'll get copies of those for the record. Anyone who is going to provide any information on this application, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Louis.
Commissioners, the first item is for the rezoning of Mr. Boynton's property, the Scenic Stream Planned Unit Development. As a rezoning, there is PUD standards, which are attachment 9, beginning on page 3 of your packet. And there's also a preliminary plat that will follow that is related to this item. I would need to clarify, this is the first of 2 meetings, so tonight you will just be voting to hold the public hearing. You'll not be voting to approve or deny this. This item did go to the Planning Commission on June 11th. The Planning Commission added a condition. They recommended a condition of approval to this item, which is on page 1 of your agenda item. There's also, in addition, we've discussed with Mr. Boynton adding a schedule of approval for this. Staff is recommending approval of this item. Again, it's the first of 2 public hearings. It'll come up again at your July meeting.
Okay. Do you have a motion?
Move to conduct the first of 2 public hearings, this is option 2, and consider adoption of the proposed ordinance with conditions, amending the official zoning map, amending the official zoning from Ag and RR5 zoning district to PUD zoning district based upon the recommendation of the Planning Commission and the findings of fact and conclusions of law made by the board, and any evidence submitted at the hearing hereon.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Actually, we have one citizen who's filed a card to he be heard. That'd be Ben Boynton. Do you have anything you'd like to say, Ben?
Ben Boynton, what is the condition of the Planning Commission on this item?
Mr. Boynton, it's on page 1 of the agenda item. It's the condition. It references, it states the PUD satisfies the requirement for natural state area of the amended SAP.
Then that is fine. Thank you. And I'm available to answer any questions y'all may have.
Thank you. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Moving on to item number 12, application for preliminary plat PP 12-01- Scenic Stream. Louis Cerna. I guess, Heather, do you need to, is there anybody, you just swore us both in for both of them, correct? Okay. Louis?
Yes, Commissioners. This is the preliminary plat that goes along with the PUD rezoning. It does show 43 single-family lots being proposed as a part of this project. There's a future phase for 102 single-family and or multi-family lots. And it also includes 37 acres that will be donated to the Heritage Village Park. Again, this went to the Planning Commission on July 9th, and they voted unanimously to recommend approval. This is the first of 2 public hearings on this one as well.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any citizens to be heard?
Is that good enough, Heather? I'd have to read the whole thing, didn't I?
We have 3 citizens speaking on this. We'll start with Murray McLaughlin. You may need to be sworn.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, so you, and I don't know, Chuck, did you get sworn?
Yes.
Okay, Chuck got sworn? Well, yeah. Could you be sworn real quick?
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Murray McLaughlin. I'm chairman of the Heritage Village Committee. I live at Shell Point. And really the only thing I would like to say is that we appreciate the efforts of the Commission in moving this forward. We want to thank Mr. Boynton for his generosity in helping us with this. And as this moves forward, we are diligently in plans for commencing our efforts out at the park and hope to see something happen very soon. And again, I'd just like to thank you on behalf of the Wakulla County Historical Society for all you've done to this point. Please keep it moving. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chuck Hess.
I really wanted to be on the first number 11, but I'll make my comment here because it's basically the same thing. Everybody's in favor of this because of the heritage development project that's going along with it. But I have real concerns over the phase 4 of this project, where they're putting 105 units on 6 acres right along 319. I'm not seeing how that works for the community, what the plan is there. That really, I can't see what you're having in multifamily housing on 6 acres, over 100 units. Just doesn't seem to make sense to me. And I would like to have something make me a little more comfortable with that. Thank you.
Okay. And last, Ben Boynton.
This particular project, in answer to Mr. Hess's concerns about Phase 4, is not part of the preliminary plat, it's part of the PUD. To go forward on Phase 4 of the preliminary plat, I would have to go back and reapply for the preliminary plat on Phase 4. So this is not on the table. It's in the PUD, but it's not on the preliminary plat.
Okay. Do you have any other comments?
If you have any questions, I'm available to answer.
Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Item 13, request board direction to advertise a text amendment to Section 5-7, parentheses 2, and Section 5-7, parentheses 3 of the Land Development Code pertaining to temporary use permits issued by the Community Development Director. I don't believe this is not a legal item, so I pass it to Louis.
Yes, Commissioners, this is a request to advertise. This is the item dealing with mobile food vendors. This came before the board on May 7th of this year, and there were some concerns with the format that it was was brought forward, and there's definitely issues with that proposal. What staff is doing is we prepared a draft ordinance which is attached to this agenda item, and what it would allow is it would allow mobile food vendors to operate if they're truly mobile, and we've attached some conditions to that, what would qualify as truly a mobile operation, one of them being that you could only be in one spot for 12 hours. Your hours of operation would be from sunrise to sunset. In addition to that, we would allow those uses that would like extensions beyond the 80 days in commercial, as they are currently allowed, to allow one extension for a year. And then after, if you're existing as of May 1 of this year, you could request a 1-year extension in addition to the 80 days that we currently allow. After November of this year, you could no longer request that extension. So basically, mobile food vendors and other temporary uses in commercial could only be allowed for 80 days after this time, after this 1 year and 80-day period. Again, we're recommending that we move forward with this, with the advertisement. The Attorney's Office has recommended that we revise the ordinance and that we allow all temporary uses, not just food vendors, to request the 1-year extension beyond the 80 days. And the planning staff is not opposed to that.
And the 1-year extension, just for the board, is to give people that are existing right now an opportunity to come into compliance. They either need to become permitted as permanent uses, or if they qualify to be a mobile food vendor, become a mobile food vendor, so that we can bring these entities in compliance with your existing code.
Heather, we talked about this earlier, and this is to avoid a lawsuit, basically, right?
Expanding it to all vendors. Yeah, I think that would be, all who are similarly situated should be treated the same.
And gives people the ability to transition, since we're going to start enforcing.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve option 2. I don't really like the non-food vendors being in there, but thing to me if I get a second, I guess.
Second.
Yeah, a second.
I'm going to just take the Hutos, for example, just because I think everybody else will add. They'll have a year, and then after that year, they can still be there every day, but they have to leave. And, maybe that's not perfect, but I think it's... Right now, they can't be there every day. They can only be there for whatever, X number of days, then they have to completely go away. Now, if they want to do like the Same Yard does and come in and leave, and, they can be there every day. I think that may resolve my issues with them being able to stay in business, or whoever being able to stay in business.
Okay. We have one citizen who's filed a card to speak. Any objection to having Emily Smith?
Thank you, Commissioners. Emily Smith, Old Turpentine Road, Choppy. Some of my questions have already been answered. This is mostly just an issue that I'm following with interest, and I've had people ask me questions how this would, basically, how do you define brick and mortar? I know that was something that the board brought up as trying to incentivize businesses that might transition to a more permanent business away from mobile, how you would define that. So, for example, our 2 existing produce markets in Medard and Crawfordville, would those be subject to the 1-year grandfathering, and then after that subject to having to close down? And also the 80-day allowance, so people who are already in business can file for a 1-year extension, and then after that these permits are for 80 days with another 10-day extension, but they can still go from site to site. That's site specific, so they could just keep shuffling around the county, would be one of my questions. And I know there was an issue of fairness which was brought up, and I respect, and I think they brought up relevant points, the planning board, issue of fairness of unfairly competing with brick and mortar businesses, restaurants. But for this particular type of business model, the businesses that they may be competing with have some unfair advantages as well. I'm thinking of like fast food chains, Burger King, Sonic, things like that. So something to consider. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think on our change, when I mentioned that they could come back and they could come back to the same spot every day.
Right.
They wouldn't have to move around.
And that's what the lady who passed away used to do up where now the places across from the Mexican restaurant. That's what she used to have to do. She had to move it every day. And I don't know how we got away from that, but to answer your question, Ms. Smith, that particular spot across from Elisco's is already approved, and they don't have to do anything. They're there forever until they blow away. If they blow away, they can't come back there. They'll have to, everybody's got to do a site plan. For the one for Medart, can you answer that, Louis? Is it approved, or?
I'm not sure which one specifically she's referring to, but I don't recall us having issued an approval for that one.
I just want to offer anecdotal evidence. I was working on a job, and I went and ate at the Spring Creek restaurant trailer then, and then one of the electricians was over there, and I saw him come back from Burger King and said, "You want to eat a piece of mullet?" He says, "No, I want to sit down in the air conditioning." So I don't think it's really going to kill anybody. Nope, not many people want to sit out in 90-something degree heat and eat. So I think there's room for both of them. Yes.
One thing I have on the produce stand in Medart, it was probably the original first produce stand. It was here long before the produce stand north of town. So whatever we do for the produce stand north of town, let's be sure that we don't exclude the one in Medart. They have been solid in that location for ever since I've been in town. I guess 5, 6, 7 years.
And yeah,
I mean, if we can, that's okay, Jerry. I'm not sure we can. I agree with you. The one in north has been there
only since the lady passed away on the motorcycle.
Yes.
But the one in Medart has been there. The fellow who owned the one north owned the one in Medart for 3 years before he sold it to the lady
If we can do that, I agree with you.
Yeah, we don't want to destroy that lady.
And just as we move forward to make the err on the side of caution, I could be wrong, Jay. Is that property that you own? I don't want to get you in trouble.
I wish I did, but I don't.
Okay, that's all I was saying. Okay, just double checking. All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Pass unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to general business this evening, we're going to start out with requests for board to appoint a member to the Workforce Plus Workforce Development Consortium.
I'd nominate Alan Brock.
I was going to nominate.
Second that.
Well, I appreciate your nomination, and I love Kim Moore.
Good for you.
It needs to be one of you guys that are going to be at least sitting there for sure for 2 more years.
I was going to recommend that, and I
think Jerry Moore.
I was going to nominate Jerry Moore because it's business development. I know you want to work and bring jobs.
But you have been nominated, Alan, and I second
I'll
it.
withdraw my motion. I nominate Jerry Moore.
I was going to nominate Jerry also. I just wanted to be somebody who I plan to be here next January, but it's no guarantee.
But I nominate somebody I think that might be here next January.
I'm just kidding. You nominated me. I appreciate that endorsement, sir. Okay.
Let me pull that knife out.
Second my motion.
Yes, I
Got a
second.
motion and a second for Jerry Moore. Commissioner Moore, any comments?
Thank you, sir.
I'm honored by the confidence you place in me, and I will accept.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye.
I'm not sure we should have 2 more on the same committee, though. we got 2 more. My cousin here is Kimberly.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you staying. I know. Do you have any comments you want to make?
More squared.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate all the hard work the workforce is doing for our community. Their office here in Wakulla is located just down Crawford Highway, right next to the Ming Tree. Make sure you check them out if you're looking for work. Next on our agenda, item number 15, request board approval of the State Housing Initiatives Partnership SHIP Program, Standard Second Mortgage and Promissory Note.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the standard SHIP mortgage and note.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any
He's
further?
coming up to speak.
I was going to make the motion while he's walking.
Trust me, he don't need to.
Is there any further discussion?
If he gets what he wants, he doesn't need to speak.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you again for coming out tonight and staying through the meeting. Encourage
Thank you,
everyone who's
Evan.
looking for housing help to check out the SHIP program through Meridian. Item number 16 has been tabled, so we're going to move on to item 17, requesting board approval of the recommended fiscal year 2011 to mid-12 mid-year budget adjustment. Tim Barden.
Thank you, Commissioners. This item is to true up mid-year adjustment for the budget for 11-12. As you know, we have some unforeseen costs that we can't predict are either going to change or be not anticipated when we adopt the budget annually in October. And I'm just going to go through the list real briefly on what changes we're making, how much we need to transfer from the reserves to offset those increases. The first one is Human Services budget, children's medical exams. This is a state mandate. It's a moving target. We don't know annually what the county's going to get hit with as far as that expense. In prior years, $1,000 usually would cover it. This year, they're already up to $3,700. So we tried to annualize that, and we're hoping we won't need more than $5,000. So we're asking to move $5,000 into that line item in order to offset those costs.
Kim, is there a specific reason why that increase is that much? I mean, is there more people using the service, whatever it is, or?
Apparently, either they're getting access to that service more than we anticipated, or I really don't understand why it's gone up that high, but we can certainly look into it.
Who provides I mean, is this something the health department does, or is this something the state does, and we just have to pay them?
Yes, it's kind of like Medicaid, you know.
Okay.
Yep.
Share.
Yep. The next one is $80,556 from the general fund reserve to fund the line, going to the solid waste fund for the hardship exemption. As you know, we had 411 citizens that qualified for the hardship exemption. which exempted them from paying the $196 solid waste MSBU. So in order to make up that revenue, a transfer from the general fund needs to be done. The reason this wasn't budgeted is last year the application, the first year of the MSBU, they weren't due until October 15th, so we're already 15 days into the fiscal year before we knew who was going to be qualified and who wasn't. We anticipated moving this money out of the reserve. That's why we had a solid reserve set up in the general fund to move whatever the total cost came out to be.
I asked them about this one too. I just want to reiterate that they knew this was going to happen because they budgeted zero for something that they knew had an expense. They all along knew it was going to come out of reserve, but just didn't have much. Now next year, I assume, when we budget, we'll have a much better
Yes.
baseline.
Yep, we know the applications that have been approved, so we'll know a solid number this year.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Lee.
No, you go ahead.
No.
Okay, before we leave the 411 citizens that were exempted, do you know what the total number of applications was that we received for exemptions?
I'm going to say it was probably about 600 or 700. I thought we reviewed. I mean, there was a good bit that weren't qualified, but we received a good bit. So I couldn't give you that. I can get you that number tomorrow. I don't really know it offhand.
Okay, I would like to know how many would have fallen into that category when we reduced.
Okay.
Okay.
And we should know the number that we've approved so far this year, so you'll see the difference. We can send you that as well.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
And in the future, this should be funded from the franchise fee. Remember, we created a franchise fee as part of that income from the charge, and in the out years, it should be adequate amount in that to pay for this. Hopefully, that's what we're looking to start happening.
That's the goal. Yep.
We hope. I mean, remember we changed the income level, so it should be. I mean, this is a curve that we're going through, and this is the first year of it, and we got to get over this curve, and then we should be find our way with it.
Yeah, there's also a couple other on solid waste, some positives that we recognize from monitoring, et cetera. So we're redoing that performer right now.
Okay, the next one is we're moving $757 from the reserve for the airport, just offset additional property costs as well as some maintenance and repair and fuel issues. The next item is $30,000 coming from the capital improvement fund. Last year we had set up $30,000 for unanticipated facilities charges or costs that we didn't budget for in the facilities management budget. We've had some of those items hit their fund or hit their line items. A couple air conditioners need to replace at the sheriff's office. There's one at the BoCC that needed to replace. So we're just going to move that $30,000 into the general fund to offset those costs that have been experienced by the facilities management department.
And David, this is one of the things that you, in your 5-year plan, that you're looking to start.
Currently, we underfund our maintenance of our facilities severely, and this is just one indication. In year over year, it'll get worse, but that's something we're going to set up as a fund to start taking care of this, as well as we need to start intelligently versus currently we patch it and or we put a system in, but we need to actually go in like on the air-conditioned HVAC systems, and we need to do a whole scale to realize the true energy savings of everything, but we don't have the money to do that right now. So the money we're spending today, we ought to be spending much more intelligently, and it's a larger scope, but at the end of the day, it's cheaper for us to operate, and it'll be cheaper on the citizens.
The next item is $75,612 for the EMS department. We've been basically trying to fund full-time positions with flex, and that's really affecting the flex salaries and position and overtime, as well as we've had obviously an increase in fuel costs that we weren't anticipating since October. So this funding is going to offset those increases in those line items.
That issue is being resolved.
That issue is being resolved, yes.
Yes.
We were watching it, and it finally come up. This was part of. We knew we were going to have to take care of this as well.
We're going to also allocate $205,000 from the jail bed reserve fund to fund the local prisoner medical charges. We've been hit with increased medical charges at the jail that are unforeseen. They're like a moving target, like the child exams. We don't know who's going to go into the jail, how sick they're going to be, and what the issues they're going to have, but we have to fund their medical. So in order to do that, we're going to need $205 from the jail bed reserve to offset those costs. The next line item is $27,871 to the General Administration Department. This is to offset some unanticipated unemployment costs as a result of we had some layoffs and we've also had some terminations. Those people go on unemployment, the county has to pay for that. So, and we don't know, another moving target, don't know what those costs are going to be up front. We try to guesstimate it the best we can. Unfortunately, we need to move some money into there for that cost as well as some unanticipated increased gas costs from the renovation to the courthouse.
Make a motion to approve recommended adjustments for inclusion. I thought that was the last one.
He's got one more left.
I thought that was the last one, sorry.
That was on the PDF, but there's one more on the hard copy. Right?
Yeah, I apologize for that. That was my fault. That wasn't Katie or Jessica. That was, we thought we forwarded the finalized copy, but it was the previous one. So the last one we just added was, we've got some generator grant money for EMS that we need to, it's just a budgeting technique. We're going to borrow some money from the 1 cent sales tax, public safety. We've already got the cash in hand for the grant, but in order to spend the money, we have to do this budgeting exercise. So we're not really spending $19,000 out of the 1 cent sales tax. We're really only spending $47.53 for the match. The rest is in-house. We've got the grant. It's in cash, but this is just a budgeting technique in order to spend the money. So.
This was an item that was not budgeted for this past year. That was just missed. Just wasn't budgeted for. They should have been.
I'll make the motion then to approve recommended adjustments for inclusion in the FY 11-12 budget.
The motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have a second? Do we have any citizens? Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to Commissioner agenda items. Commissioner Arts, you have 2 this evening?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Okay. At our last meeting, I had presented a draft survey that I was seeking approval to include in the ballot mailing to all residents in Unit 1. And I think the general consensus was that it was confusing. I think I tried to collect as much information as I could and whatever. So I went back to the drawing board and I've made it greatly simplified. It's just 3 questions and it's visual, so they just need to circle or X or whatever from these various maps. And so I think there's some important planning information that we really need to get from Unit 1. This seems like a really opportune time to collect it. I'm not sure when we would be able to collect it again so inexpensively. I don't think it'll confuse people to have this second sheet in there. I've really tried hard in the rewording to make it clear that it's the other survey that really is the important one for them to answer, and that is a vote for their neighborhood, that this is just to get their opinion about some new ideas. I didn't have, because I've been out of town, I didn't have a chance to do pre-testing of this like I had hoped. My thinking is that this would actually increase the response rate from the people who get this, because they're going to be attracted to the pictures and then they'll read about returning the other survey, which they may not read otherwise. So anyway, I just, I'm sorry this didn't Xerox well. Those white stripes just were from the Xerox machine today.
Much improved. I could do this with a crayon, which is a lot better than the other one.
Thank you.
Ms. Arts, you have a motion?
Okay, I move that we include the simplified survey for property owners in Unit 1 when the road assessment ballots are mailed in July.
Do you have a second?
I'll go ahead and second it.
Okay.
I think everybody's on the back. Obviously, they're going to pick the one with the little trail through it. I don't really know what. I guess we'll glean some data off of this. But I guess the main thing is if this Unit 1 doesn't vote to pave their roads, which I, to be honest with you, suspect they won't because there's so many vacant lots. But I do like the fact that I think a lot more people live in here, correct?
Yeah,
If we get an overwhelming response of this, then maybe we could
Yeah, thank you. I think this would be valuable. And I'm really, the first question is really one that's, if we're going to do this, we're going to need to do it soon because or at least to start planning for it because there are almost no places left where you could go the whole way across. So, and I think if they, question 2 does kind of get up the survey that's on the ballot, but with a few more variations that I think would be helpful.
What I'm saying is, with question 2, the usefulness I could see with this is if Unit 1 denies paving, and we can come back and kind of anecdotally look and say, well, most of these people really did want it, and this verifies it, maybe we could just focus in on that and forget about the vacant lots. That's the usefulness I would see out of it.
Thank you. I agree. That's part of its purpose.
Commissioner Hart, I have a couple of quick questions.
Okay.
With item 2,
Yes.
and I'm not a survey designer, but I'm just curious why you've chosen to have different symbols versus the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Because your favorite, circle your favorite.
Trying to keep all alphabets and letters, numbers out of it.
Okay.
Right. Basically, they're going to end up rank ordering, but it's an easier way to do it than asking them to rank order.
Okay.
They tell her to keep it simple.
We did. We did.
You don't even know how to
Well, then, the other question, I have, and I'm just curious, each of these plans is different levels of paving. There might need to be some sort of disclaimer or something that explains, because if they choose the second one up here and we try and move forward with that involves us purchasing lots. They choose any of the different ones down in the next 4, that involves different levels of paving, which affects the costs for what they're doing. And on the back, I think the park looks great. I've yet to figure out how we can make it happen. So I don't know if you want to make a disclaimer or something to try and explain. Like, if these people wrote back and said they wanted to do this, and they chose this map here, which only paves the front half, that affects, and then we decided that we wanted to change what they were doing. I'm just trying to figure out what you anticipate happening.
Well, I'm not anticipating. I want to find out what the responses are first. It says that this survey simply asks your opinion about some new ideas. Now, I could add something after that about we may not be able to afford or pursue some of these ideas. Is that what your concern is?
I'm trying to figure out, I'm just trying to figure out what the outcome is. If they vote for it, but they also vote for a different map, or if they don't vote for it, but there's another one. If they don't vote for it, but they all say they like this one, we can give them another idea, because it's different than with some of the roads paved versus all the roads paved. But if they vote for it and they want all the roads paved, I'm just trying to figure out what happens with the numbers.
Ms. Arts, you do tremendously hard work. You're very thorough in what you do. I don't want to confuse the issue. I will not vote for this. I just want to see some paving going down in Wakulla Gardens. I don't care how we do it, where we do it, whatever. Those people want to see some paving going down, and I don't want to confuse the issue. So I will not vote for this.
I think it would be good maybe if the font was a little larger, say, and it simply asked your opinion, to make sure that this doesn't mean, like Alice, just because I picked that's what I'm getting.
Yeah, I'm not against the idea. I just think it needs.
If I can, Alan, I have the same concern. I'd like to see some verbiage that says this in no way obligates the county. It's simply a survey. But I'm also, like Jerry said, I and I appreciate the work you've done. I just don't want to confuse the issue. I want it to be simple. Shoot it out there, let them vote, bam, we get it back, and we figure out what they want to do, and then we move to the next step.
I think that's...
Well, that is, I mean, we're doing that with the ballot now, and you're going to get the answer to that question. But for Unit 1, let's say it comes back with more than 50% saying they don't want the roads paved. Okay, but if you had a lot of people circle these, then that would suggest that the people that rather than treat all of Unit 1, either pave it all or leave it all unpaved, that people would like to see just the front half, and then we could go down that route.
I think that's the useful information.
And I get that. One of these is what's going to be, if they vote yes, it's one of these drawings. I would mark the one. Let them know which one is actual. I don't know. So that they know what they're voting on if they vote yes.
If you can't figure it out, Alan, probably a lot of other people.
There's another total separate survey.
You're right.
But this will only be mailed to Unit 1.
Just Unit 1. Yeah.
I mean, that narrows it down, Jerry. It won't go to everybody.
I'll yield to whatever you fellas think.
It's just Unit 1.
I don't think it's going to hurt.
But I would like to say that it doesn't obligate the county somehow to say that. I know you're saying it's simply a survey, but
I would
about some new ideas that may or may not happen.
Okay.
Would that work?
Yeah.
What would be wrong with sending a survey out that we've got, and then in the newspaper just run one article and send this out? Just put this on the page in the newspaper.
I think the point is to try to save costs. Put it in the same envelope.
Yeah, but if you confuse the issue, you separate the issues. You're talking about what does it cost to do a mail-in?
For Unit 1.
For Unit, the mail-in that we're doing, what's the cost?
That cost was what, Katie, isn't it 60 cents? I believe it's 60 cents.
Per mail-in?
Per mail-in, yes.
And how many people?
Over 14,000.
Unit 1 is
1,400.
about 1,400, yes.
And that's $700? Okay, well, that's about the same cost as, anyway, whatever.
Well, again, my thing I like is that if they come back no, and a lot of people have circled this one, I would separate those vacant lots out and then proceed with them and give them the chance to pave their own roads. That's the advantage I see. I think everybody's going to pick the nice park one. But
I would make the maps smaller on the back and leave a section for additional comments. So people can write notes.
Well, no matter what, we need to make sure we've got this in tomorrow because we got to get this to the printers to go.
I would have
if you guys add it in
a section for people to write their thoughts and comments on it, so that we can collect that.
No cursing.
Yeah, we're going to get a lot of cursing.
It's okay. We won't. We'll put pound marks in the report. Pound, 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 comma, pound, 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 comma, pound, pound, pound. And then I think, and maybe Heather could give a quick disclaimer, but I don't think the idea is bad. And then we'll have the workshop July 12th, right? We're going over Wakulla Gardens July 12th. I'm going from memory, so I'm just wanting someone to confirm.
Yes, you're right. I was frozen too. So.
We're going to have a workshop July 12th where we go over what's going on at Wakulla Gardens and invite everyone out to our community center for a presentation and discussion. The Wakulla News does a great job of covering these things. I expect the Wakulla Area Times is here. They're going to probably cover this. So we'll have a lot of people get a lot of information, and
it'll be loaded on our website as well.
It'll be on our website
as well as we'll be adding FAQ, whatever you call those.
Frequently asked questions.
There you go.
And this is only going to Unit 1.
Yes.
Okay. And Unit 1 is the least developed.
Don't screw up and send it to everybody else now, because that'll be a blow. Okay.
All right.
Fill it out with crayon.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
See, Ms. Arch, you don't always.
Okay, my second agenda item is just an update regarding the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth. I was not able to attend their meeting. The minutes are attached. They continue to do great work, and I did talk about the break spots, the summer break spots for feeding our children and youth, and they're major players in that. So I move that we ratify the update.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Moore, you have 2 items this evening.
Okay, basically, the first one is, let's see, number 20. Pull that one up. Has to do with taking Wakulla. No, that's the minimum flow levels for Wakulla Spring and Spring Creek. And I would like to add to that St. Mark's River and Ocklackney River, because those are as important as anything else as far as reduction in flow. So my request is to request the Northwest Florida Water Management District to develop and implement the minimum flow levels for Wakulla and Spring Creek Springs and the Ocklackney River and St. Mark's Rivers.
Moves to approve the motion of the resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second if you tweak it just a little bit. The only thing that scares me, Jerry, is it's open-ended. If it says deny all, we recommend, I know we're just recommending stuff, but if you deny all commercial permits, once you've started working on the study, because they might not even start working on this setting flow levels for 20 years, for all we know. We're just trying to encourage them to do it. I don't know if you'd agree with that or not, but that's kind of like saying we're not going to approve any more development on 319 until we have a plan for 4-lane, and there isn't even projected to be a plan anytime in the near future. That's just my thoughts. I'm not going to vote against it because it's just a resolution.
I just want to make sure I understand how it may impact, like, Penny water system or Sop Choppy water system. If they want to put in new wellheads, I know they have to get that permitted. I don't want it to adversely impact us being able to grow in the future too. I want to go along with this. I just want to make sure that it's not. Can somebody tell me that?
Do you want? The board asks the Water Management District to deny any non-residential permit to pump water from the Florida aquifer within the portion of the Wakulla Spring Shed falling within the jurisdiction. To export the water out of Wakulla is what you're trying to say. You're not worried about water.
No, this is different.
We've already done that. Ms. Arch did that some time ago.
It would create limits, as I've seen in other jurisdictions. It would create limits as to what you're allowed to withdraw from the aquifer. So it has the potential to potentially slow development at some point.
That's all I'm scared of, Jerry. I want to do it. I just want to make sure we don't impact those guys.
I think if we put in there that once they've started the study, if they want to do a moratorium until 3 or 4 months later when the study's done or whatever,
they can.
But they're not even scheduled to even start looking at it.
I think we're just asking them to take a real close look at minimum flow levels. The fact how it could impact our water supply, I don't think that's probably going to be an issue.
You want to strike item 3 then, and not ask them to deny any non-residential permits?
It could, if you leave number 3 in there, Jerry. It could impact.
Well, then you can.
Or Wakulla County putting up.
You can take number 3 out.
All right, I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? We have citizens.
I have a couple.
Would you like to speak before the citizens? We have 3 citizens.
I'll wait. That's fine.
We will hear first from Ron Pisecki, to be followed by Chuck Hess and then Emily Smith.
Yes, Ron Pisecki. I'm here as chairman of the Wakulla Springs Alliance, and thank you, Commissioner Moore, for asking us to work on this. 2 months ago, I brought in Dr. Bob Knight and Dr. Todd Kincaid, and the second time you've seen Dr. Kincaid and talking about the scarcity of water right now and the need to get a water budget. Right now, it's just bringing up what Todd said. If everybody who's got existing wells right now drilled to their capacity, you'd drain everything dry. The way this is written, and especially item 3, is to tell the water management district, until you design and implement minimum flows, you should not issue any more commercial permits, because right now you've already exceeded the availability of water in the aquifer. And so how can you keep adding to this until you clearly come out and state what are the minimum levels that you need to keep everything going, to serve everything you currently have? And I can understand the concern that, gee, maybe we're going to hold off issuing a new commercial permit. We're not talking residential, commercial, until we find out what those levels are. But I would ask you the opposite question. If by having that additional commercial permit, it further drains down, it may impact some of your existing commercial businesses, that they have insufficient water, or that the residents start having to dig new wells to go deeper because this new commercial development is further drawing down on the aquifer. So I think it's critical, and again, as Randy said, this is a resolution and it's not binding on the Northwest Water Management District. But it shows the seriousness and the intent of the Wakulla citizens and the Board of County Commissioners of how serious of an issue this is and how you want to really get them to move on it. If you don't issue the commercial permits, they're just going to say, oh, well, we'll look at this some other day. So, and I'd also agree to add on the additional water bodies. So I urge you to sign it as is with number 3 on there and add on the additional water bodies. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chuck Hess.
While Chuck's coming up, my main issue, like Mike's saying, is even though South Choppy's water wells serve residences and businesses, they're not considered residential, they're commercial.
Chuck Hess speaking for CCAL. It's real important you keep number 3 in this proposal. We're already overpumping the aquifer. We're already losing species because we've reduced the aquifer. We've got to get minimum flow levels before we allow this development to continue, and allow more and more commercial wells into this system. You've got to start to protect it, and this is the way to do it. We've got to get water management to set minimum flow levels to protect our rivers, and it's vitally important. And to worry about whether you're going to stop development because they don't have enough water, what happens to our whole community here if Wakulla Springs stops flowing? If our fisheries collapse because we don't have enough fresh water going into our bays. You have real issues if we don't have enough fresh water. It will have a much bigger impact on development than having to have some other way to get fresh water for communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Emily Smith.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Moore, for bringing this item up tonight. And I would reiterate also that you approve it as it was originally written with number 3 left intact. Because if you say, well, we don't want to unnecessarily set any limits to what we're going to withdraw from the aquifer, but we don't want to set limits, that seems like what this is all about. You want to set limits. And so to say that that's counterproductive, or I don't quite follow the logic of that. If the purpose of this is to do something that there's been an articulated and demonstrated need to do, which is to set these minimum flow levels, then you should do that and do it with number 3 with the teeth left intact of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
I will amend my motion for the resolution and to take out number 3, because my intent was to establish the minimum flow as it might pertain to properties north, South Georgia farmers, everything north of us, but my opinion is that any kind of commercial that might go into the Wakulla Springs area, I think that's not hardly possible.
Certainly not to pump
Yeah.
bottled water.
But I would like to include the St. Mark's and the Oklackney.
And, you know, I think they've been, I don't know how long they've been working on that much Kohler River. I know it's been many years. So that's what the only thing that worries me is if statement 3,
Yeah,
denied them, they say, well, Wakulla County wanted us to deny.
Yeah, I didn't intend 3. It was in there, but
I would even mind a little bit stronger language, you know, the board, you know, strongly, whatever, that you need to do this minimum flow levels for these rivers you mentioned. I think that's a good idea.
everything comes out of the aquifer. You know, well, there's surface water, but basically everything else comes out of the aquifer. And South Georgia is those irrigation farms. They suck that thing. And all over they're doing it, and they will continue to increase. I don't think one commercial entity here would affect it one way or the other, but they will affect it in that location.
I agree.
Commissioner Arts?
Yes, first, I would like to thank you also, Jerry, Commissioner Moore, for this resolution. I think Bob Knight gave a very powerful, and Todd Kincaid gave very powerful presentations. I'm glad you took that to heart.
It's always been on my heart.
And pursued this. For sake of accuracy, I'd like to make a couple comments and then come back to item 3. In the agenda item, you said in September of 2011, the board passed a resolution to protect the Wakulla Spring and Spring Creek spring sheds in their entirety and the waters of Wakulla County in their entirety, but this resolution was only concerned with water being removed from our spring shed. And if you'll take one and pass it down, this is the resolution that we approved in September of 2011, and we did more than that. One of the things we did was we urged the Water Management District to establish minimum flows and levels for the Wakulla River, including flows at both Wakulla and Spring Creek Springs and the St. Mark's River without further delay.
Yeah, there it is.
Right. We also asked them to compile and publish their permitted and actual extractions. We asked them to promote conservation and efficient use of water and to limit slow the rise in consumptive use withdrawals. So I actually think your resolution would have been strengthened if it had actually referenced that, a year ago, we asked you, we've seen no response to these. I just think it would have made your resolution even stronger if you had kind of built on this one.
Got you on that one, Jerry.
But anyway, I'm happy to send a different one.
I had help on this one.
Okay. Well, and then back to, so I'm on board with adding St. Mark's, and if you want Oklackney.
Oklackney is very important. That's the Oklackney. I don't know the flow level, but there's a good chance that Oklackney is flowing more than any other river. Right now I can't tell you that, but it's extremely important to the estuaries.
Well, we had already asked about St. Mark's. I have no objection to repeating that request and also adding the Oklackney. With regard to the third issue, though, I appreciate the concern about our own commercial consumptive use, but my bet is, first of all, this is not binding. My bet is they're going to have far more requests coming from the north of us than us, and that's really what we want to address. So I'm a little reluctant. I'm reluctant for that reason to take out 3. But I wonder if you're too concerned about the use of the word deny, if you want to soften it a little bit to to limit or to seriously restrict or something like that. So so you're still making the point that, especially further north of us, we need to slow these permits down.
How do you, who made the motion? It was Jerry and Mike?
Randy.
And how do you feel about making the board ask the Water Management District to limit any non-residential permit?
Didn't I just second the motion? It's your motion.
Yeah.
Jerry's motion.
Okay.
Well, I can't look at him so easily.
What about considering this number 2 under, now therefore be it resolved? It says, I like the language better there if we made that in number 3. The board asks the Water Management District to deny any permit to pump water from the ground or from surface water bodies within and transport that water outside the Wakulla Springs and Spring Creek spring sheds.
Personally, I think this is redundant because everything that's here is in there.
Yes.
Except add no Clotney Rivers.
Yes.
I think Ms. Archie had a very good point. This covers everything Jerry had in his. It is.
Well, the water budget is...
It doesn't hurt to send it back to them.
No, that's fine.
But I like that language in number 2 better than I do that language in number 3. I think it protects.
You're looking at the whereas, the second whereas?
Down here where it's dated, Jerry.
Of number 2 here.
And number 2 there.
I also personally think if we change the word to deny to scrutinize.
How about the limit?
Yeah, not deny it, but maybe,
to limit.
If they're going to be pumping 50 million gallons a day, maybe you want to look at that a little harder than Sop Choppy wanting to expand their water.
Yeah.
Well, they probably will not deny a whole lot of things, but they might limit more.
We'll use deny it, and it does what you want to do. You still can pump the water and use it in the county. You just can't take it out of the county.
That's fine. And then add Clotney. The only problem I have with that, I don't want to beat this to death, but if we include the Clotney River,
I agree.
What's their basin?
I don't know that. I don't know how you ever going to establish it.
Well, it comes out of, that probably
Headwaters
comes...
are in Moultrie.
Sir?
Headwaters of the Clotney Basin's in Moultrie, just outside of Moultrie.
I'm fine with it if we can do that, if we can agree to that. Not number 2 verbiage.
To include number 2 and use the word limit? Or just use the word?
I just use it just like it's written.
Okay.
Strike 3 out and substitute with the 2 in the old one.
I have no problem with that.
With those additional rivers.
Yeah. By adding cent marks in the Oak Log.
Modify my second.
Do we need to include Sop Choppy, or is that work?
I don't think he lets pump out national forest.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there.
And I think we're changing the meaning of your 3.
Well, we're taking it out, and we put number 2 in.
Yeah, no, I'd almost rather leave the way you have it.
What we were going to do with that,
we
were just going to take number 3 out, though. Number 3 is gone.
Well, I wouldn't take 3 out. I'd leave 3 in, but if you wanted to soften the deny, just to change it to limit.
But we are putting a deny in there.
I think we're taking number 3 out and inserting number 2 here.
They're saying deny if it goes outside the watershed.
Yeah.
So if the water stays in the watershed, it's okay.
Well, is it okay? I don't know. Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's okay.
Whatever.
Heather, you got all that?
I guess it's Evelyn, really.
Evelyn's got it. Don't worry.
No, I know. 'Cause I didn't draft the resolution, so I didn't.
I don't think anybody's got that.
Evelyn gets it all.
Evelyn, you got it?
Katie said she got it.
Okay.
That's good.
Bada boom, bada bing.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Thank you. Commissioner Moore, you have a second item this evening requesting board approval of the proposed resolution for Wakulla County to opt out of the new statutory requirements to implement a local sewage treatment and disposal system evaluation and assessment program. Tell us about it.
Basically, this has to do with the septic tank inspection that the state had said that we would do every 3 years. And the state now has given the counties a choice to opt out of that inspection, and my resolution is to request that opt-out.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any citizens filed cards? Citizens cards.
What this, just so I put a little bit more meat on it, this resolution would opt out of the state program. You currently, however, have a requirement in your comp plan that requires all septic tanks that are not performance-based septic tanks, which are covered by state law, all standard septic tanks to be inspected every 3 years. This resolution also would direct staff to begin the process of amending that, to remove that, so that there won't be inspections.
Now, I guess,
Do you want to hear from the one citizen?
let me go ahead real quickly. I could see some merit in some limited if they're over like 30 years old or something like that, but not just everybody that's got one. And we'll address that at a later time.
Well,
address the comp plan language as well.
I think we have to, my understanding, I guess when he brings it back up, is come up with our own version of what we want to do.
Because if I had to hazard a guess, I'd say probably 5% of the septic tanks are causing 50 to 60% of the pollution because the bottom broke out in them.
Well,
there would. But we'll address that later. So I'll support this.
Let me back up, though, because the way the new law works is you guys are grandfathered with what you currently have on the books. If you take that away and you want to put something else in, you can't. You have to go to what the state outlined as the mandatory septic tank program. So you don't have a lot of
even though our comp plan says we inspect them every 3 years, that would be, we can't say inspect every 3 years if you're more than 50 years old.
You might have some flexibility in there, so long as we're not contradicting the wording of the comp plan.
If it's all or nothing, I just assume get rid of the state requirement, though. Say that.
Do you want to hear from the one citizen?
I just want to say something first, because I know at our last meeting you had mentioned that you would bring something like this, but we had Pat Juarez there and our county attorney who indicated that they would be bringing something to us and they just needed a little more time. So I was surprised to see this on here, because basically staff asked us to wait and let them have time to develop some options, do an analysis so we can look at the pros and cons, what are, and we've ignored that request. And
Basically, Ms. Art, I'm not interested in the options. I'm interested in doing away with that inspection.
on an uninformed basis?
No, I'm very much informed. I just want to do away with the inspection. I don't want the citizens to have to pay for an inspection every 3 years.
We still have it in our comp plan, though, correct?
They will be taken, they'll be readdressed.
Like I said, we can address that later. I agree with this taking the state requiring that you do it out. If we want to have some form of, if we can, limited inspections, if we have a choice, either have every 3 years everybody or none, I'll choose none.
Well, I don't know what I want to do yet, because I'm willing to admit that there's a lot that I haven't heard yet and need to hear before I've formed an opinion on this. I do know that, and I mentioned this at the last time, that Julie Harrington had estimated there were 2,000 septic tanks in McCullough County that are putting raw sewage into our water. And some people ask good questions. How did she come up with that estimate? I'd like to have her, have an opportunity to look at her data. And I certainly want to hear what PAD, and our county attorneys, I just would like to table this. They've already said they would bring it to us. We had until, what was the timeline, January or something?
January 1.
And I don't see what the rush is.
Are you planning to bring it back to us, a report on this?
We were going to develop options. If the board knows now that you don't want to have any inspection program, then we don't need to do that. But we're, we were going to bring an item back that had options in it.
I reiterate, I would be interested if there's a way to allow PAD or us or whoever, the very oldest septic tanks, which I guarantee you those tanks you're talking about are probably 50, 60 years old, maybe on some limited fashion, but not just everybody, every 3 years. Or if there's another way to do that without requiring an inspection, whatever, I don't know, but again, I don't think we need to address that right now. Because this is going to require a comp plan amendment anyway, right?
Yeah, what your comp plan currently says is all existing and new septic systems shall be inspected every 3 years by a licensed septic system contractor for maintenance or upgrade. If you vote tonight on this resolution, it would opt you out of the state program. It also would provide staff with direction to begin the process of removing this language from your comp plan.
Well, but you just said you would be willing to support something, I don't know. I don't even know what the details are of the state inspection program that you're all
Mandatory.
saying that you're getting rid of.
Well, it's mandatory that everybody get their septic tank inspected every
3 years.
That's all I need to know. Even if it's 3
Well,
years.
out of respect for staff, and because we aren't doing any inspections. We have it on our books and we aren't doing it. So what's the rush to get rid of it?
Let's just make sure we don't do it.
Well, there aren't plans at this point. I would just show respect for staff and let them bring it back on their timeline.
That's every 5 years, I'm sorry, stand corrected, we thought it was 3, it's 5.
See, we don't even know what we're voting on.
So the state the state's,
State requires 5 years. Your comp plan currently requires 3.
I think it'd be crueler to Heather to have her waste her time on something that we're going to just vote against.
That's correct.
That's cruel to me.
That's no reason you...
Well, I come back to what Commissioner Merritt and Commissioner Arts were saying, that if there are septic tanks that are failing in Wakulla County, we need to identify them, and we need to try and figure out a way to fix them.
Well, I'd think that would be a whole different issue.
Well, if we get rid of this, we can't do any, we lose the right to...
Then you defer to the state program, which is every 5 years.
But we're trying to opt out of the comp plan and the state program, and then and so our choices are nothing, every 5 years, or every 3 years.
She said there may be some leeway when I asked her that.
But if you opt out of the state program and you want to come back and adopt something, you can re-adopt the state program, but then you are limited to that. What your comp plan currently says, the exact language is all new and existing septic systems shall be inspected every 3 years.
That's just too much. That's a blanket over the whole county. It's a blanket over the good systems.
And it's $300 right now. Now, who knows what it'll be once we...
Well, there is.
Not only is it $300, you've got somebody who can make a decision whether your tank is working or not.
Well, no, let's not confuse the two issues. The $300 is for the performance base.
It'll be the same for these.
Well,
No, I think that they actually looked at some estimates for inspections that the health department did to have somebody on their staff do it, and it wasn't 300.
saying I don't want to.
But you're going to add a tremendous amount of work to somebody in the staff.
I agree.
Let's see if I can do a call. How can I call this vote?
Well, we have to have the citizen, we have to have, Chuck.
Not all this?
No. This is the stack.
Don't scare me now.
Sorry, Chuck Hess. I apologize, I shouldn't be so informal.
Ask Alan nicely.
Chuck Hess speaking for CCAL. This seems to be one of those things that, we want to keep an inspection system for our septic tanks. We already have about 2,000 failing. There's an estimate that about 10% of what we have out there are failing about every year. What you have to remember is that to properly maintain your septic tank, you should be pumping out every 2 to 5 years. And if they're pumping it out, the septic tank guy is there looking down into an empty tank, and he can do his inspection right then. So they should be available. Adding an inspection to that, the pump out process should not be that expensive for our homeowners. I know when I just had mine pumped out 6 months ago, he looked down and said, "Oh, is there a problem there?" And he checked it out, and he said, "No, there's no problem." Okay, that's part of what they're doing when they're pumping out a septic tank. So getting rid of this just doesn't make any sense at all. We're trying to clean up our water. You're just concerned about our water, and now you're trying to pollute the water. You're just confusing the heck out of me. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe if a septic pumping contractor discovers a failing septic tank, they think they've reported, or they have to, they're supposed to. Of course, if it's failing, they're not going to be pumped out because it's leaking on the ground.
Does it need to be pumped?
Right.
Need to be pumped, exactly.
I've heard people come up here tonight and talk about taxes, new taxes, new taxes. This is a tax. Call it what you want. It's what it is. And it's amazing those same people want to call that tax, but this is okay. I don't get it.
We'll call it an expense.
Well, call it what you want. It comes out of their wallet.
I agree with you.
Well, I sure would like to have Bad Juarez have an opportunity to talk about some of these things. And we talk about expense, but we have no idea what even the cost is.
We talk these things to death. They just don't, as long as we're talking, they're not going away.
Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Passes 4-1. Next up on the agenda this evening is Commissioner Stewart requests board approval to direct staff to draft the historical preservation ordinance and approve to schedule and advertise a public hearing to consider adopting the proposed ordinance.
This is something that was brought to me, and Cal, did you fill out a card to come up and speak?
Yeah, I did, although somebody told me that it wasn't necessary.
Okay.
To speak, but I do have a card.
But anyway, these guys, I mean, they have worked diligently to get this site they have up there now, and with the help of Ben Boynton, they have a place to go, and this is an opportunity to have some grant money that they can apply for. Now it's sort of burdensome in that we have to appoint a historical preservation committee, and we need an ordinance, so it's going to take a little staff work to do it and come back to us, but it's a wonderful opportunity for them to be able to apply for grants that otherwise they wouldn't have any money to work with. And the average grant's about $25,000, my understanding, if a year, if money is available. Now, that doesn't mean money's available every year, but those years that it is, it can be anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000. So, was there anything else I needed to add, Cal? I mean, I know you guys want this, and if you want to, Mr.
Cal, did you
Chairman,
go up
don't
to
mind.
the microphone and give a brief synopsis?
Thank you, sir.
Cal Jamison, 411 White Oak Drive. This came to my attention from a newsletter from the Trust for from the Historic Preservation, the Bureau for Historic Preservation, and in it they were talking about certified local government grants that are available only to governments who become a certified local government, and that is someone who passes a public policy in the form of an ordinance supporting historic preservation. Once you qualify for that, then that opens up the doors to apply for certain grants that the rest of the people who are after historic preservation grants don't get to apply for. And you also don't have to match these grants. So we can get anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000 non-matching for this, and it can be used for planning purposes, for educational brochures. If we could use it in time, this time, which we can't, but it could be used for the planning of the layout for the historic village. So it really benefits, it would benefit the Historical Society quite a bit, it would benefit the county, and it also would benefit any other group, the maritime folks or the people in Sopchoppy, anybody who wanted to get a historic grant and they were not-for-profit, then the county could partner with them and we could apply for the grants.
Thank you.
So I'm moved that we task staff to do so.
Second. And thank you for bringing this to the board, Mike.
I'd be interested to see the ordinance, but I want to really look at it hard, that if you have an older house, you go to the building department to get a renovation permit. We don't want to say, all right, now you got to go in front of the Historical Preservation Board. I'm just saying there's a lot of unintended consequences. So I'd like to see it go forward, but I'd like it to be as least stepping on people's toes as possible. Okay?
I agree. I think we need to understand more of it and make sure that we got the staff to be able to manage it.
Sure, we really want to do it, because the first person that gets turned down because they paint their house the wrong color.
I look forward to learning more about it. Also, thanks, Commissioner Stewart, for bringing it up. Any addition?
I'd like to say to the Historical Commission, when Mr. Boynton decided to donate that property to you folks, Mr. Boynton is a developer. Recognizing that a developer gave you that property. I know the developers have sort of a bad image and so forth, but I think you folks should recognize him in some way, because that was a tremendous, and I don't have to tell you what the gift was, but it was a tremendous gift that he did. And I would have voted for his project without him giving you that. I encouraged him to, worked with him to do it. But I would have still voted for his project. He didn't have to do that, so I'm just saying that he did that out of his own free will.
Maybe we could name a lift station after him like we did.
Yeah. And one other thing is that now, Mr. Jemison, you become a developer. So you get to go through all the grievance and all the trials and tribulations that you've seen other developers go through. So you'll be here, and we'll be turning you down and turning you up and turning you over.
Thank
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you all.
You have just become a developer.
It goes to staff now. It doesn't even come to us anymore.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner Stewart. County Attorney, do you have any items this evening? The County Administrator has one item. A couple citizens did file cards, but we don't allow, during the discussion items, we don't allow citizen comment. The only way to do that is during citizens to be heard.
I'd like to seek board direction. Understand that Commissioner Arts and will not be here for our meeting in our planned workshop on the 26th of this month, and also Heather will not be here. At the time, Alan was not going to be here, but I understand he's going to be here. Does the commission want to keep it for the 26th, or would you like to move it to July 12th so that everyone can be in attendance?
July 12th would be before the Wakulla Gardens workshop earlier in the day at the community center.
This would be from 3 to 5.
Should all share the load that day. There's going to be plenty of it blowing around, so.
It's up to you guys.
I'm okay with moving it to the 12th.
So what do y'all want to do?
Are we going to vote on this, or who won't be here?
I am going to have to be out of town all of next week. So there are 4 workshops I'm going to miss, and I was not going to ask that any of them be rescheduled. Okay. But it's my understanding the county attorney won't be here, and so that also, now neither she nor I would be here for the airport workshop.
She's got other county attorneys. I mean, you can have somebody sit in your place.
Yes, and I do have somebody to sit here.
Maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe I was thinking that Alan and Lynn.
Well, I was going to be out of town.
Alan, he informed us today.
I basically was my
I just
schedule.
missed the workshop. Y'all don't have any sympathy on me, so.
Well, if it's just
newspaper
one,
made know that I wasn't here, so.
If it's just one being gone, it's fine. But I was told that Alan and Lynn.
That's what we were understood through Alan today.
Without Ms. Arts and the attorney, we can set a lot of rules.
We'll keep it the way it is then.
We can do a lot of things.
Brother, let's go on and move.
I can shoot from the up with both barrels.
Can't vote there anyway, so.
Okay, so no motion, then we won't do anything with that.
Not a problem.
Discussion items, Commissioner Stewart?
I'm just frustrated with the level. Well, no, I'm not going to say anything. I'm sorry. I don't have anything.
I'm going to say it for you.
Commissioner Merritt?
David, did you already tell, our meeting with DOT, did you relate that to anybody? How I'm going to go to the CRTPA, try to get those intersections I don't know the acronym they were using, I have to write it down. I
wrote it down, I got it in another
Got to
pad.
get these intersections, they're on the list to be funded, but it's so far back on the list. that
Yeah.
I think it went really good with that meeting.
Yes,
They
very
came
good.
forward with us to try to move ahead, and they said, what I need to do with CRTPA is try to get those projects moved over to a different funding area, and they almost said they would fund them, because
That's right.
he asked the liaison from DOT, he says, if we fund these projects, can you keep that money allocated to these projects? I said, I'll jump on that table if I have to.
Because part of the meeting was with the liaison from DOT to the CRTPA. And he's going to work with Randy and move that up and help the political situation on the CRTPA as well. To move funding up. But one of the things that's critical is that we're just going to need to participate, because clearly we got to have some participation in the game, financial. So therefore, that's the reason in the future we're going to have to determine how we're going to fund those projects, whether it's half-cent sales tax or Wakulla 2020. But DOT or 1 cent sales tax. But yes, it was a very, very good and productive meeting. The intersection plans come up. At the first meeting, they were a little skeptical about the end. They were ready to move forward with ideas of funding, as well as they really liked the idea outside of the intersection plans. Also liked the idea of funding the final section of the Oconee Bay Bike Trail from Surf Road on into Sop Choppy. They really liked that idea, so I think we'll get some traction there as well.
Good meeting.
Very good meeting. Very, very good meeting. Thank you for bringing that up.
Well, I appreciate y'all giving us a report on it. I've been curious about what y'all had found out.
You done? I want to touch again on the last issue of Commissioner Moore's. I want to see us, so whatever we end up doing with the septic tanks, I think we need to be figuring out a way to deal with the old ones. I don't know what that is, but I think we need to be finding out something.
I have a couple of comments. We sit here night after night and hear citizens blame the board for doing this and doing that and whatever, and they have every right to do that. But I want to just go forward and make the idea that we're in a political season. We'd spent all of our money when I came on the board. We had huge sums for lawsuits. We bought properties where nobody read the grant, and we wound up buying properties that we were supposed to build. We wound up with a civic center. When I came on board, we had a Tallahassee staff. A whole group of our people that were working in our county office were out of Tallahassee. It didn't seem like we wanted anybody local to be working for us. But I would like to compliment Mr. Stewart. He provided the leadership for us to come from a very negative position, according to our report tonight. He provided the leadership to pull us out of that. And leadership is not something that's always popular. It's something that when you take the lead position, you're out there being shot at. And it takes a strong person to provide that leadership. And he did that, and I understood that. I voted against most everything, but anyway, by doing that, he kept the state off of our case, because we were in such dire straits because of previous leadership that we were in grave danger. If something had not been done at that time, we could have possibly been taken over by the state. And since that time, we have reduced budgets. We've added some taxes, but the bottom line is that we're in a positive position today, and we're going forward. And most of the time, that's all I have to say. But for the citizens, just remember this is a political season, and whatever you always hear on this camera is not always 100% correct.
Ms. Arts?
Well, I wasn't going to comment on that subject, except if we're giving praise, I would like to also credit Tim Barden, who I think led us through a really difficult time financially, and then we've certainly had some great assistance from our county attorney and our new county administrator as we move forward. And the decisions, they were board decisions, usually 4 or 5 of us, so I think we did what we needed to do to address the problems we were faced with. But anyway, for the public, I wanted to make sure you're aware of these dates, and to the board, I wanted to apologize for my absence next week. I'm going to have to miss on Tuesday, June 26th. There's the airport workshop from 2 to 4, and then from 5 to 7 there's the public works plan, and I'm really sad that I'm going to miss both of those. On Thursday, June 28th at 4 o'clock is the fire and EMS plan, and then at 5 there's a budget workshop. So I'm heartsick that I'm going to miss 4 really important workshops, because I've tried very hard not to miss any, and I apologize for that. I will do everything I can to try and read information that's available in advance and try to share any thoughts I have in advance if I have that opportunity. Otherwise, I'll look at the tapes afterwards, and then when these items come to the board, I'll hopefully be informed. But I ask your forgiveness.
Ms. Arch, you really work hard, and I'm not
Thank you.
whatever. You definitely work very hard.
Thank you for saying that.
Well, it's just a group hug or something.
I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a second? All right.
Goodness.
See you all next time.